Live from beautiful downtown Bastrop, it's time for the Stage Select, starring Julian Titus and Justin Ham.
What could this possibly be? Seems a lot like a podcast. Wonder what specifically. Talking about video games. With your hosts, you're in good hands. Not more of the same. Now we'll jump right in. So expect the unexpected and more. Now we'll get grooving. There we go, who's gonna walk through the door? There just might be some strategy. It's just having fun with a special guest. Time for Stage Select.
With special guest Jeff from No One Didn't Know About This. And here are your hosts, Julian Titus and Justin Ham.
Welcome, one and all, to the Stage Select. I'm Julian Titus.
And I'm Justin Ham. Hi, I'm here. I thought I had next week off. I do not, so now I'm upset about that.
Oh.
And we all have to deal with it. But that's okay. You know, that's all right. This is life, and we're living it. You know, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I'm bummed for you because we talked about that last night during the Game Award or after the Game Awards.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I was like, oh, I have all these times for activities now, and now I don't.
yeah.
Oh, well, what are you going to do?
Well, I'm glad that I didn't reschedule the Game of the Year recording last minute because I thought that you'd have more time to play shit. So,
I did too,
yeah,
but yep,
I would have felt like a heel.
Yep.
But we have a very special guest this week.
We do.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Jeff Eckman from No One Can Know About This, a podcast where they play every Final Fantasy.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I love the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Ryan sends his apologies. He wasn't able to come this time, but he wished he could.
Yeah, I was looking forward to talking to both of you, obviously, but, NoCat is a very intensive endeavor. I wasn't even sure if I'd get, you guys at all this year. But then when the season ended, I was like, oh, there might be time now, at least for a little bit.
There is.
Right?
Because the funny thing about that show, I love it because, as I've told you in the past, so for new listeners, we interviewed them on Nerds Without Pants a couple years ago, but listening to No One Can Know About This is such a time fuck.
Yeah.
Especially in earlier seasons where it was like, okay, they're midway through the airing of this season, but I know just from what I've gleaned from how they talk about the show that they're already knee deep in the production of the next season while this stuff is coming out. And so even the perception of okay, the season's over, so now you very well could be knee deep in the next season for all I know. So I was like, oh, maybe.
Well, those days, in the early days of the show where we were really only taking a month off between seasons is no longer quite so possible, especially with the length of the games and stuff like that.
Right.
And we took a pretty long break for personal reasons, including just a little bit of burnout between season 6 and 7. But just to take season 7, it's such a time fuck to make the show because that we recorded in November mostly of 2022.
Right.
And so it happened over a course of a month. And then that month we're editing for 2 years. And we were recording voiceover for the finale, in November of 2024. Or October of 2024. And we were still talking about this 1 month in 2022. And a lot has happened, multiple Thanksgivings had gone by. Mm-hmm. And it was just a really weird experience to go through. And yeah, it took 2 whole years to do this thing where, again, by the end of it, I couldn't remember what had happened at the end of the playthrough. And the last day of the playthrough is now 2 years ago. And it's just, people are telling us oh, you should go back for this part, or you missed this detail or something. Or,
right.
Hey, actually a great strategy for this boss, that just to let you know. And it's we played it 2 years ago. I appreciate all those messages because sometimes we miss details and don't learn about it until somebody gets in touch. But like one thing that I know that we want to come in and correct is that like on the finale of of FF9, we didn't realize that in the epilogue who was doing the voiceover when we recorded it. And then now we realize that like the voice was meant to be Vivi, and we need to correct that because that was a clear, definitely intended thing that we just missed.
No, leave it. Like I think it's better that way. This season was very interesting as a fan listening to it because I definitely noticed that the voiceover, like the editing bay part of the show was getting closer and closer to like real time, and I was like, holy
usually
shit.
we gave ourselves a much bigger lead time, and there were times where we were finishing episodes, in days before it was supposed to post, which is not how I like to run things. But once we kind of committed to, we felt like we had pushed as long as we could before starting the season. So we started the season as early as we felt like we could continuously release episodes. And we found ourselves pretty much like backs against the wall through most of that time.
Right.
I have to ask, Jeff, whose idea was it to strap cameras to y'all's heads?
I gotta think that was Ryan's idea because we were watching a lot of YouTube and watching a lot of POV video and stuff, and a lot of the No Cat ethos is putting too much effort into something that's really objectively not worth it if you describe it. Mm-hmm. And it felt like the next step to take the absurd amount of work that it takes to edit the show to put 5+ cameras around, and then also put the second level of studio, so we had all the cameras for recording the gameplay, and then we have a different set of cameras for recording the voiceover because that's a whole different setup. And the whole system was fighting me tooth and nail, especially in the first few months where we were losing data, and I would like finally get everything aligned where all 6 cameras both, because we're each wearing cameras. There's a camera on my dog, Haley. There's
inspired.
That was definitely the best part.
Yeah.
And anytime we cut to Haley, it wasn't, because there were so many technical difficulties early on, we wound up not really doing more of the experimentation over time than we were kind of hoping to do. And like by the end, we were doing some picture-in-picture stuff where you see like Haley running around while we're doing other stuff. Like you see that in the corner, and we were like, man, why haven't we been doing that all season? Like we mostly were cutting purposefully, but the idea was like, if this show was about putting you, the listener, on the couch next to us and feel like you were a part of this experience, this felt like, put yourself into our eyeballs and you can see what it's like to look at a television from a couch.
It's like one step away from a Cyberpunk 2077 brain dance. Like we're almost there now.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, it was very fun, especially at the beginning, to be experimenting with like, you go to the full screen of the video and like, how much do you want to be full screen? And we've discovered pretty quickly that you mostly want to be looking at the game, because even when you're hanging out with your friend, you are looking at the game while you talk. You don't like stare at each other or whatever. But we would pop out from the game to my perspective, and then I would like turn and look at him and say something. And it was really amateurish, but in a way of just like pure experimenting. And we found some rhythms with the editing, and I don't think we'll be doing it again.
I was wondering about that. I think it's a really awesome idea, and I was curious how it would evolve, but I can only imagine like just the level of work involved. But I feel that there's something there. Like it's something that I've never seen before.
That was our hope. We felt like it wasn't something, it was like, this is a Let's Play that nobody's ever done like this before. And I was also hoping that it would like evolve into something, and I think it did. Like, I do think that like the season itself is a really fun experience for people to sit and actually watch. But even with like just once we were putting voiceover in, it was like, how much do you even want to cut to the editing bay? And could we maybe have had better cameras, better placements for that than on our own heads? Mm-hmm. But yeah, it just, it felt audacious in the right kind of way. And it did wind up being so much effort and so much data and so much struggle that, and I think that we also were maybe even a little bit very subconsciously more self-conscious on camera than purely in audio form. So I feel like this was an amazing experiment. This will be like the video season. Mm-hmm. And we'll have video stuff for other seasons, and you know, we might want to find a way to keep dog cam going. One way or another.
That seems like a promising endeavor. Yeah,
but
you know what you do, Jeff, is you don't you put the kibosh on video, but then when you get to the 10-year anniversary of No Cat, and you inevitably have to revisit Final Fantasy 1 because you know that you have to. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's when you do it, because it's still going to be a much shorter season no matter what, and you treat yourself to playing like the pixel remaster version of it or something where it's just like a cakewalk where you don't have to like struggle at all because they've taken like all of the thorns off of the experience, and it's like the victory lap. That's when you bring it back.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, because it'll be like a 6-episode thing.
But like, you know, we're trying to have some energy, you know, I mean, we're mostly being ourselves while recording, but we're aware that we're doing a show, and wearing headbands for 10 hours that like make you know, people do that to help them sleep. And it really does like affect your mind space over time as you just feel that light pressure, that light downward pressure on your eyes from above.
Yeah.
It puts you to bed.
Right.
Yeah. It's something that I really appreciate about the show. Like from the moment that I discovered it, like just as a podcaster, as a person who knows what it takes to edit a show, and who often goes way too extra, especially with this new project. I'm just constantly astounded at what y'all had been doing. And then when you released that preview episode of the new season with the video, it's like they did not. And it's like, no, you did. It's like, I respect the hell out of that. But
well, thank you. I really appreciate that. Makes it all worth it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like I told you last time that we spoke to you. It's like I love revisiting the show because there's just so many like layers to it, and you know, things where now I'm privy to what the editing bay versions of you know, and so just like that little experience, like it's a show that like rewards you for revisiting it. So I am really looking forward to like going back. I only listened to the audio version of this season, but I'm looking forward to going back through it all on the video version, because I think that'll be a lot of fun. And I don't expect it sounds like you guys are going to try to have like next season come out a little bit sooner than the.
Yeah, it won't be as big of a gap between 6 and 7.
Yeah, but I still would not fault you guys for like, you know, taking like a year, because just, I mean, holy shit, like such an endeavor.
Right.
And have you guys, do you know what you guys want to do for the next one yet?
We're going to do Final Fantasy 3.
Okay. Excellent.
And we're doing the Pixel remaster. And, yeah, we said that at the very end of the season.
That's right. I remember that now.
And was mostly we like logicked our way into deciding FF3 next, because I think what we want to do is FF10, but we want to do a much shorter season than FF9, and 10 would be longer. And then
10 is,
when the ones that are earlier that we still haven't done are just 3 and 5. And I've heard that 5 is better to play after 3 than before 3. So we're doing that. That's we're going to play the Pixel remaster because we've had enough pain with the NES games, you know, doing the original NES version of FF1 and then doing a fan translated NES cartridge of FF2. And then, you know, it feels like going and trying to experience that wouldn't be new, whereas like people have often told us that we should play FF1 and 2 as the Pixel remaster, which is very unlikely to wind up happening. Just because even if we're told that they fixed it, it just doesn't feel like
Yeah, no.
it's worth it. But
Yeah.
going and playing FF3 Pixel Remaster, the only negative aspect of that would be that we won't feel as much pain, and sometimes that makes for some good podcasting.
Right.
I will. Yeah, there is a part of me that wants a repeat of the Final Fantasy II season, because that possibility is not there. And same thing with like when you did Final Fantasy VIII. It's like, oh man, you're using the remaster, which means there's no way that Haley can fuck this up. All right, I mean that's fine, I guess. But no, and I gotta say, with the Pixel, I've been waiting for the Pixel remasters to do what I've been wanting to do for years, which is go back through the series from the beginning and kind of like reevaluate them all. So I played through the first 3 games last year. I'm about halfway through 4. 5 is the only one I've never finished, and I've told myself that I cannot play 6 until I finish 5 for the first time. But I gotta say, going back through 3 this time, it was my second time playing it. I actually developed a new respect for it, and I actually enjoyed it quite a bit more than I was expecting. I think
there you go.
You see the genesis of what Final Fantasy becomes in Final Fantasy III, which is very interesting.
Did you guys ever watch a show called Daddy of Light?
Yes.
About the FF14, the kid who catfishes his dad into playing it with him, basically.
Yes.
It's a great show. Anybody, it might be on Netflix, Daddy of Light. It's a really delightful narrative show. And in that, they made a big deal about how the greatest memory that kid had as a little kid was his dad bringing home FF3 and the two of them playing it together when he couldn't work or something. And it kind of made me very interested and excited to specifically play 3 because it seemed to have an impact in Japan.
Yeah, and it actually, now that I've played a lot more of 14, 3 actually has a ton of narrative influence over 14, as a whole, which is fascinating. Because I think it's also one of Yoshi P's favorites. So yeah, I think it did really kind of turn the corner for that whole friend. I mean, it was successful from the jump, but I think that was the one that really cemented it as kind of a juggernaut series in Japan.
They should have thought about releasing that one in America then.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but we were too dumb then. What can you say? They didn't trust us.
You were too dumb then.
Yeah.
Yeah, just then. Now we're so much smarter.
We're fine
so
now. Everything
better.
is so good. Just it's
real good.
Yeah, we're just on top of the
real
world.
Great.
Everything's wonderful. It's great. No complaints over here. Is he listening? I feel like he listens everywhere.
It might be. Yeah, who knows? Hard to say.
Well, Jeff, we'll just kind of jump into all sorts of shit. I'm sure the last thing you want to do is talk a bunch about Final Fantasy right now.
Hey, I mean, it's what I do.
It is, yes. But there's more to you, that you contain multitudes. So what have you been up to, post the Final Fantasy IX season, game wise, or just trying to decompress from that, kind of what's been going on?
Well, most of what I've done in the weeks after that was actually a bunch of administrative work for the show that I had been putting off for 2 years, remaking the website, updating information, doing lots of stuff on the back end of NoCat. And that wound up taking a lot more time than I expected. But I've actually been kind of wanting to write a new pilot of television script.
Nice.
And try to take something out next year. Hopefully people are even listening to pitches. A lot of the television industry, when I talk to friends who are working and stuff, or not working, they talk about everybody says survive till 25. So, the hope is that in 2025, things will return to normal, because things haven't really returned to normal since the strike.
Right.
And I was actually listening to a good interview with Robert Zemeckis recently, and he was talking about what is different about Hollywood recently. And he's like, what's weird is nobody's in a rush to make anything anymore. People used to be excited to make stuff, and nobody's really doing anything anymore. And that's a fear of failing and nobody knows what to do in television, and Netflix is dominating every other streaming service and caused them to destroy their own revenue incomes, and now is pivoting back to ad-based stuff after they've gone away from that, following Netflix, and Netflix is like the only one that's doing well. And as like somebody who has devoted most of my life to television of all things, things in television, both creatively and otherwise, were only getting better through most of my life until about 5 years ago. And it's the first real downturn in television. And I worry that it's going to never fully recover, kind of the way that network television never recovered to its former glory, but it still exists. Like there's still, lots of television shows are being produced on Fox and ABC and NBC. Not that like me and my friends are watching, but, and I think that overall what cable and streaming did to network television is happening to television as a whole by YouTube and podcasting, because television doesn't do the function that it used to do, which is be in your life every week. And that's what a podcast and a YouTube show now does. Instead, you usually on television get 8 episodes of a show every 2 years, and you wind up spending a week with it every 2 years. And that's not a real relationship.
Right.
And even now, like the biggest stuff on streaming is still the shows like Friends and Seinfeld that have hundreds of episodes, but they aren't really producing anything like that. So everybody, the chasing of a Squid Game and anything other than that being not worth renewing past 2 seasons, and the many other ways that the industry has been messed up by not allowing creators to have back end deals, like where they get money if the show is a huge success, and instead making it so that they would make a huge amount of money if the show made it to season 3 or 4, and then Netflix deciding after season 2 it's not worth it to make it to season 3 because we'll have to pay so much to these creators. And so shows that should continue going because they are theoretically profitable in this other world don't, because it would be so expensive for Netflix to pay season 3 prices to the creators.
Right.
And it's just sorry to go on this sudden rant. I was just realizing you asked me like, hey, what are you up to? Fine. And I'm like, television's dying.
That's great. No, I love it.
No, I mean, it's also, it kind of also echoes like the games industry in a big way, right? Like, because it's so short-sighted. Yeah. Because it's like, okay, so but you have now set me up as a viewer to not feel like, well, I'm not going to get invested in this because I know it's going to go away like in 2 seasons. Right. So why should I bother? And that's the thing, right? Is that I like a good like 5 to 7 season long show, and nothing really gets there anymore. No. So yeah, it's kind of like, I know he's a controversial figure now, but like I was always a big Joss Whedon fan and a big fan of Joss Whedon's shows and stuff like that.
Big episode, lots of episodes.
Lots of episodes, right? But I remembered, and it ended up being his last. Well, I guess technically not. But anyway, Dollhouse.
I was just thinking about Dollhouse.
Yeah, because
there you go.
They killed my favorite character, and I was like, I just need to stop getting invested in Joss Whedon characters because he does this to me every time. So next time out, I'm just not going to give a shit about anybody on the show. I'm just going to watch the show and be like, any one of you is on the chopping block, so I'm not going to get emotionally involved. But then it didn't end up being a problem because then he went into movies and then,
and
whatnot.
Then off into nothing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's the same. Yeah, it's absolutely that thing. And it's funny, Jeff, because when we were watching the Game Awards last night, they announced a Game of Thrones video game.
Yeah.
And we were talking about
about a franchise that's fallen from grace.
Yeah, exactly. Because
That's exactly what we were talking about. Yeah.
Like that last season, like soured people so much that I don't hear people talk about Game of Thrones in any capacity anymore. And I also mentioned like the entire CW Arrowverse, which I was a big fan of. Like that whole, I think that version of live action DC comics was like better than anything that the movies has done as far as actually respecting the comics and the characters and stuff like that. And it seemed like it was a really big deal at the time. And then the instant it ended, nothing. Like, you never see people reference it anymore. Like, I never see people being like, oh man, like, I miss this character, or I miss this show. It's like, it's just done. It's just dead. And I don't know what what to call that, or what phenomenon that is.
Yeah, you could call it the Lost effect, but I don't think that Lost really falls into that. It just like could have, because people still talk about Lost,
People, yes.
Yeah.
And people still start Lost.
Yeah, even though the final season of that show is a complete mess.
Right.
But Game of Thrones, like, it was really as soon as they ran out of book, you really started feeling it. And, have you guys watched The Three Body Problem from those guys?
No.
Mm-mm.
They adapted The Three Body Problem, which is this amazing sci-fi book. It's for a Netflix show, and they're just they don't seem to have. I don't know what made those first 5 seasons of Game of Thrones so good, because they wrote unbelievable scenes and incredible dialogue, and you care about what these characters are doing, and like. Three Body Problem I still found pretty cool, but that's because of the power of the ideas in the book, not because of any of the way that they played out. And I'm now listening to the book, audiobook of it, and it's like, man, why did they blow all these ideas in this stupid way? So that's kind of abstract, but it is. I haven't seen it. I don't think anything has ended and then nobody cared or thought about it anymore as much as Game of Thrones, the way that like they really everybody gave so much of a shit.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It was one of the last major, world nationwide cultural phenomenons in television, I feel like.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's wild.
So now they've got a game where you can play as Jon Snow. I don't know. I was like half paying attention to that trailer.
Yeah,
so I was like, I hear the
to
Game
do
of Thrones music. Great.
I don't know.
Yes.
I don't think that you're playing as Jon Snow. I think you're playing as that other dude who is not recognizable to the show, but then clearly they paid the likeness rights for all of the actors, which that's definitely a choice. Like, I'm surprised that they went that route, because I feel that that's just kind of like adding needless cost to your game where, but I don't know. Maybe
it certainly adds cost, but it might add the sales.
Yeah, that's true.
Because when you look at it and you go, that's the characters from the show, though.
Yeah.
Like, I've listened to people who play Star Wars Outlaws, and I don't sense that it's a good game, except that it's Star Wars, though. You get to go around to the world, and there's Mos Eisley.
I really love Star Wars Outlaws.
That's
Julian
awesome.
Liked it. Yeah.
But I fully admit that a lot of it is the Star Warsiness of it, because I have not really been high on Star Wars for a very long time at this point. And I actually mentioned to Justin, I was like, no, that moment when you step into Mos Eisley, like, it did something to me. And it's very subtle. It's not like, big capital letters, like, you're in Mos Eisley now, son.
Right.
Like, it's just, no, this place from movies and TV and cartoons and stuff like that. And it sure does feel like that place and that original set. And there's something to that.
Yeah. And I never played that Hogwarts game, but what was really intriguing about it to me is the fact that I'm like, wow, it looks like a whole fucking Hogwarts. You could like go around the whole thing, and it really the world,
Yeah.
It's like there's a power to that.
There's something to it. Yeah.
And, they might be doing that with the Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
It's possible.
It's hard.
Did you guys ever play Telltale Games' Game of Thrones?
I didn't play finish it. I think I played the first 3. I'm trying to remember what happened around that time. I do know what happened around that time. That's around the time that my mom died, and I had to sell my original PS4 that had the save data on it.
Man.
And so then I never went back, like when I later on repurchased another one. But I liked what I had played of it. It was interesting, but I was also into Game of Thrones at the time. Like, I fell out of Game of Thrones before the show ended, because I think I got to a point where I was like, it was a Joss Whedon situation where I was like, okay, just don't get invested in any of the characters, because like any of them can go. So like, it doesn't really matter. I think what was really funny is my girlfriend at the time was continuing to watch the show, and I had not watched, I think, an entire season and a half. And then I watched that season finale with her, and I was like, Yeah, I don't think I missed anything. I could tell exactly what had happened in the season and a half that I missed. Like, yeah, no, okay, yeah, right. I'm kind of glad that I jumped off when I did.
That Telltale one was like better than you would think, and it was like when Telltale was starting to crack a little. Like, I thought that Tales from the Borderlands was one of the best story experiences I've had playing almost any game. And part of that was an amazing reveal that they slow played for literally a whole year. I played it as it was coming out, Ryan and I, and we didn't see this like kind of turn coming in the last episode that had been in front of your face the whole time. And I still think about it as like one of the most unbelievable. Like, and I don't care about Borderlands. And I was like, this is one of the best stories you can experience in gaming. I loved The Walking Dead before that and Wolf Among Us for sure. And, but after the Game of Thrones one, they did like a Guardians of the Galaxy I didn't play and a Batman one that was one of the worst versions of a Telltale game you could imagine.
I hated that game.
And one of the funniest things is like in that game, I just remembered that like Harvey Dent is in it. And there's all these times where you can almost two-face him, but like we kept like really choosing the hard, like they kept like wanting you to get him to be Two-Face or something. Yeah. And we kept not doing it. And he just never become Two-Face in our version of the game. And he just keeps looking like a grotesque monster of a giant like politician man. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that game could not comprehend the fact that I did not want Batman to hook up with Catwoman. To the point that it actually invalidated a couple of my choices in flashbacks where it was like, no, but you totally kissed her. And I was like, no, I totally didn't.
Oh,
Batman is on mission in year one. Like, he doesn't have time for anything else. I'm like, no, but Catwoman, though. And I was like, oh, no.
It's always funny how that sometimes their formula always revolves around you being really into the romantic interest, and then when you're not, it doesn't really know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Like even I played that Star Trek Resurgence, which is like old, like kind of the remnants or some remnants of Telltale, and like they throw like a romantic interest at me. And I've known them for 5 minutes and they're already starting to be like, all right, this one though. And I'm like, I don't care about you. I don't know who you are, man. and so I turned them down, and like the entire, like there was so much stuff that hinged on this character being into that character, and I just didn't care. And it kind of just doesn't know what to do with it sometimes. It's just like, yeah, no, I'll shoot her right now. I don't care. Whatever. This is not a hard choice for me.
Well, after playing Tales from the Borderlands, I was like, this is the future of games. Like, this is what storytelling is finally like emerging in this different way in gaming, and this is incredible. And then the Batman game happened, and then they like disbanded, or, you know, apparently due to bad management and other complicated reasons.
They were really running those teams through the ringer.
Yeah, they had so many IPs that they were working on. Like there was a Back to the Future one.
That was
an early one.
That was before.
Yeah, it was an early
they did
one.
A Jurassic Park too, before The Walking Dead.
There was a ton of stuff that they just like had and were working on, and then they just ran it all into the ground.
And apparently, the way that Tales from the Borderlands came about was probably the one that was actually done organically, because it was like Gearbox, the makers of Borderlands, were like at some, you know, E3 type event. They were there too, and they wound up like hitting it off as a team,
right?
And well, like, we should do a thing, and like, you know, like, yeah, and so they like, it came about that way instead of, you know, the people being like, what other franchises, which is obviously a major element of what Telltale was doing. I don't think that they did anything that wasn't a franchise.
No, and I think that was kind of a big part of the downfall. Is I remember like the stories, like as everything was falling apart, there was like, well, they don't have any IP. Like it's you know, it's just the people. Which, I mean, obviously the people are valuable, but like the company didn't have anything of its own to be able to shop around and say, hey, you know, if you keep us together, like we can give you this. Because it's like, well, but you also have to like put down the cash to like Disney for this thing or that thing or what have you.
Bringing it back to the Game Awards, though, there was a new trailer for a game that they basically were pushing as from the teams that brought you Wolf Among Us and Tales from the Borderlands, and I'm very intrigued by it.
Dispatch, that was one of the ones that like really looked cool to me, because I am a sucker for like generic takes on like superhero stuff, you know, sort of like there was that, I think it was Freedom. I always get their name wrong. It's not Freedom Force, because that's the IO like third person shooter. But there was like that like real time strategy game on PC, like in the like late 90s, early aughts, where it looked like Jack Kirby style designs, and they were all like kind of, you know, their spin on like Silver Age comic book characters. I'm a sucker for that shit, and so just looking at that, and then like the art style was really pretty, and it also looks like there's more to do than just the Telltale, you know, walk around and then make decisions type of thing. Like it seems like there's also like more of a game mechanic element to it, which I feel a lot of those games were kind of missing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am really looking forward to that. Actually, that's a question I have for you, Jeff. Would you? I mean, it's really fraught, especially the last couple of years. But would you consider going into games writing?
I would love to. I don't know that, you know, I would love to see if that was something that could be done. I don't really have like an in to that world. And I know that really can depend on the company and the way that they, you know, some game studios really care about the storytelling, and some it's really an afterthought, and some you're just producing massive amounts of dialogue, and others you're kind of working out a tight script and that gets like filmed, you know. So there's a variety of things that could happen, and I would be really interested in doing that for sure.
Yeah. Because I was actually thinking, as you were talking, like the Telltale model, I mean, it wasn't sustainable, but that was probably, you know, closer to what old style television writing was like, just because of the you know, they were going through those seasons so quickly.
I definitely saw the vision on writing that type of game. I'm not a designer really, or a designer of you know, levels or game or like mechanics at all. So it would be purely a storytelling. And but you know, I mean, I played both of those South Park RPGs, and I loved the first one more than the second one, but both of them are filled with really, really funny, really great ideas.
Yeah.
And that's coming from a couple of television writers. But of course, those TV writers are pretty special, and they make projects outside of TV. And whenever they do, it's like the biggest thing ever.
Right.
Right.
Did you ever play the mobile game they released, Phone Destroyer for South Park?
No, I heard that one was good.
It was really good, and I was upset because it was such a good premise that I was like, this should just be the third RPG, guys. Like, why did you waste this on the mobile thing? Because the grown-ups get involved, which I think is one of the best parts. Because the thing I love about those two games is like, there's that element of like, okay, so the kids are obviously like playing pretend, but they're fighting adults, and are the adults like in on the joke, or like what's going on there? But here it was very clearly like, no, Randy is actually like dressing up along with them and doing shit, and like there was something very fun about that.
Randy would.
Yeah, he absolutely would. I gotta say, Justin, though, I your comment about the love interest, it reminded me the last session I had of Dragon Age: The Veil Guard. Because I've been on the fence. I was like, you know what? Maybe I just won't romance any characters in this particular BioWare game. And then I was like, well, let's throw a little flirt out to Harding and see how this goes. And it resulted in the worst dialogue that I have heard since
You'll have that.
Since Ryder tried to flirt with the girl on the bridge in Andromeda. Like it was that cringeworthy, and I was like, yeah, no, we're just gonna skip that part of this adventure.
Yeah. It gets a little awkward every now and then with the writing in that game. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? While we have a pause here, I'm gonna pose this. Jeff Eckman, last time I talked to you, I asked you a bunch of questions, and it might have been, to my memory, the first time I actually did that on a podcast. And so I'm going to do it again because I do it to everybody. You are not immune. So here we go.
Unvaccinated.
Tell us how you do.
That's David Lee Roth. All right. This is a segment I call 5 questions for your people. And here you go. Number 1. Have you or someone you know ever eaten a sausage cake?
Not to my knowledge.
All right. I've recently become aware of sausage cake, and I don't know how it exists.
Is it sweet?
But it does. I don't know.
I just don't like that
term.
term.
Don't know. It's a disturbing term for one.
Yeah.
Now, the ingredients include pork sausage, like a cake mix of some kind, walnuts, raisins, and coffee.
No, absolutely not.
Is this a joke recipe?
No, it's not.
It doesn't. I mean, I'll try anything once, and there's a lot of counterintuitive ideas in cooking, so I don't, judge too much. But that just doesn't sound like it would work.
I know. And yet, if you look it up, you'll be like, oh God, that's a sausage cake recipe on like recipes.com. And also there's 4 or 5 more here. Oh wow, this must be a thing.
You gotta get one.
And it bothers me. It's in you bake it in like a bundt cake pan. It's a whole thing. I feel like you are the perfect person to ask this next question to. So question number 2. Is now the time to bring back the hit USA original TV series Pacific Blue?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I'm
perfect time. People need it.
If ever there was a time.
It's 2024-5.
Whichever.
What's Slater's, the actor's name?
Mario Lopez?
Yeah, I just saw him doing an ad for like some sort of like poker mobile game.
Let's get him out of there.
He's had a shit ton of work done, so he looks like he hasn't aged a day since.
He's got to fit into these biker shorts. We got to make this happen, Julian. All right. Question number 3. If you have the middle seat on an airplane, what is the etiquette for armrests?
Never go over 50% in either direction.
Okay,
but you can take your corner like half of it. Yeah, half the armrest. If you have to.
Okay, so the person on one end, to me, I feel like you should almost get both of them because you're in the middle.
I see what you mean. Maybe what would be more appropriate, because they get a full one on the other side, is if you get 75% on either side of you. They get a full, on your left, they get a full one. It all adds up to about the same amount.
Right.
1.5.
You got to be careful, though. You don't want to, like, touch arms with strangers.
That's the thing is, like, if their arm is on the rest, you just don't use it.
Yeah, I make myself as small as possible if I have to be in the middle seat. And that's a difficult thing to do because I'm a big dude. But I just kind of, like, squeeze together.
You just squeeze it.
Yeah, my legs do this thing that is it's a natural man spread, and I try not to do it. I fight against it, but it's like even when I'm just laying down, my legs just turn outward, and it's really I think it's more than most people naturally. So I have to engage the leg muscles to be holding them in at all times to be normal, which on a long flight you deal with it. But it sucks.
You do.
Yeah.
It's not great. All right. Well, that's good to know. This is good to know. Number 4. Is there such a thing as too many pockets?
I mean,
Nomura?
That's the name I was looking for. I was like, no.
Don't worry, I do the same thing.
Nomura would certainly say no. Mm-hmm. And I, after seeing enough of that man's designs of characters, I got to agree. You can't have too many pockets.
Maybe too many zippers, but not enough pockets.
Maybe too many zippers, not enough pockets, not enough belts.
Yeah, no, I mean, once you start crafting skirts out of belts, you're onto something. More of that. And finally, number 5, Jeff, how many phone numbers do you still remember?
I think.
Yeah, right.
4, including my own.
That's impressive.
You know what?
That's impressive.
No, I was just trying to catch my childhood home's phone number and lost it.
Yeah.
I've
still got my childhood home's number. I
remember that one. Yeah.
I remember all of my the numbers to all of the two main stores of Game Fellas when I worked there.
Mm-hmm.
I still remember the numbers for the manager and owner of Game Fellas because they still have the same numbers, and I used to dial those all the time back in the day.
Right.
And I think I remember my friend Joe's original cell phone number, but he doesn't have that number anymore. But I think I still I'm thinking like one digit off. So that's actually more than I expected.
Yeah, that's probably more than I got. I think I remember like 2 or 3.
Yeah,
and that's about it.
I'm definitely fucked if like I need to call somebody and I don't have access to my phone. Like I
think we all are.
Yeah,
to some degree, we all are.
Yeah, I think I do have my mom's cell phone still embedded in my mind, so you can always call mom and then get somewhere from there.
Yeah,
there you go. Well, congratulations, Jeff. You've answered the 5 questions.
I win.
Yeah, you won. I don't know what you won, but you won it, and I'm proud of you.
I'll wear that badge proudly.
You should. You should. All right,
Justin, you haven't closed out the segment, and it's bothering me.
How do I close out the segment? Do I just hit the button again?
Yeah, that's what you usually do.
Yeah, good. All right, well, here we go.
Tell us how you do.
You can't leave bits open, man. We've talked about
Hold
this.
on. I could have done that one too.
Yeah.
I have like 6 David Lee Roth buttons. I don't know
You
why.
still
I
have
them,
the
but
6 David Lee Roth buttons.
Oh, I'm not getting rid of those. You need them.
Fair.
I need to make 2 more to fill out the whole buttons, all the buttons, because there's 8 of them.
Yeah. Or I don't know. You could give Sammy Hagar some love.
No. No. Don't need to do that.
Well, Jeff brought up the Game Awards, and I thought we could talk a little bit about that. So for listeners, it should be up by the time. Well, it'll definitely be up by the time this goes up. They're for top tier patrons. The video version is actually up on our Patreon page, so you can watch us talk over that. And then there's audio versions that should be available in the free feed. But I thought we could talk a little bit about the overall awards because I was pretty gosh darn impressed. Like just kind of overall.
What a show.
I mean, the bar is over. Yeah. The bar is always low. So, let's not give it too much credit, but
yeah. I mean, the awards themselves, like as who won what thing, I don't usually care about that much because I don't know. I just don't usually. Especially this year, I just did not have like a real interest in who was going to win things.
The nominations always tend to be a little bit weird.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is. But the announcements this year were great. They were really fun. They started with Witcher 4, which was nice. That was exciting, and
that was fun.
Already...
That was fun watching that with you because I realized how much more invested into The Witcher you are than I am because you were like, that's Ciri's sword. And I was like,
yeah, that was fun. Yeah, just instantly was like, yeah, that's Ciri. That's her. Yeah, because she only has the one that I know of. But yeah, people are already up in arms that Ciri is the main character, which is great. I'm happy about it. Fuck those people. That's fantastic to me. I, for one, am excited about it.
No, I think that's great. She was fun to play, like in the couple parts where you get to play as her with that.
She was really fun to play.
Teleport thing.
I wonder if they'll keep with that, or if that'll be like her thing this time, because she was like that combat was really great. But it's hard to say.
That would upset me if you didn't get to do that. I feel that they should kind of build the game around that mechanic.
Yeah. It would be neat, but it's hard to say if they're going to do that because, like, I think the lore reason for her doing that is she can teleport between realms or whatever, and I'm not sure if she can do that now. So we'll have to see.
When do you think we're going to see this thing?
That's a good question. I think when we were talking about, I was saying that's probably next gen,
right?
It'll probably be right at the end of whatever generation
Dude,
it is right now.
It's going to be the Cyberpunk thing all over, where it's like, y'all really should have just canceled the PS5 version and released this only on PS6, because the PS5 version like really held you guys back. Like it's going to be that all over again. And I'm worried. Like
it'll be the game that makes me buy a new video card. Probably. Yeah, that's what'll happen.
Yeah.
So 2027, 28,
something like that. Probably
at the earliest.
Same thing with the Naughty Dog game is what I'm thinking.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah. I'll say this, because you brought up Cyberpunk. The lead up to that, I developed a very, very strong itch, and that itch never got scratched, because that game did not deliver on scratching the itch, even in a better form. And I haven't played since I've heard that Idris Elba says the game is fixed, but I find it difficult to believe. So even if it not to the degree that I think I would need it to be fixed.
I got it.
I bet the Phantom Liberty's good, but I have this unscratched itch for a type of game, and when I saw the trailer for the new Naughty Dog game, I was like, ooh, that itch is still in my back, and I would really like to scratch it.
Can you expand on that? Because because I might be able to answer your question. Because I played a little bit of Cyberpunk before it was fixed, and then I played it last year when Phantom Liberty came out with all of the 2.0 upgrades.
Well, besides all the glitches, which was honestly the thing that made it fun, I really felt like it was falling on its face storytelling wise, which was really, really surprising after The Witcher 3. And it they rushed through that opening instead of actually having you experience being that character. They're blowing through stuff, and then the game is I'm driving around the city, and just drug dealers are calling me with work all the time, out of nowhere.
Yeah,
people I've never met just calling you hey buddy, I got this job for you, and a million USB sticks around with the most boring stories on them. Just everywhere you could go, there's just USB sticks all over the fucking city. And you would come upon, a shootout between cops and a bad guy, and you couldn't choose the bad guy's side.
Right.
And then cops would literally spawn in directly behind you, not around from cover, but literally you would spin around and the cops appeared. I'm sure most of those are fixed, but then Johnny Silverhand is going, because capitalism is actually fucking you, man. And it was boring. It wasn't interesting. And it didn't develop into, it wasn't whatever really, and I know that Witcher is based on books, but beyond that, the way that dialogue was written, the way the Baron's story plays out, the emotional depth and level of relatability that all the characters have in The Witcher was not there. And I was like, look, you can fix the graphical glitches, but I think that might make it worse. I think I was lucky enough to have just gotten a PS5. So I was playing it on a PS5, and it still ran like shit.
Yeah.
But that's... And honestly, if you're 3 years later going to tell me, oh, no, try again, we fixed it, I just don't care anymore. And I don't trust or believe you.
That's an uphill battle. Yeah, for sure.
And I don't want to reward you for that. But, that's, even if you did, I appreciate that you did that, but, they pulled it from the store. That's one of the worst releases in gaming history. And maybe one of the worst forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will say, I don't think that your issues are really properly addressed.
Right.
Until you get to Phantom Liberty. I do think the storytelling in Phantom Liberty is quite something. I think
pretty good.
The characters in there are very rich, and the decisions that you have to make are pretty intense. But as far as the rest of the flow, right? You're still getting people just calling you up with quests. That's just kind of
that never
how
ends.
they do it. I actually came around on the Johnny Silverhand stuff through the course of the game. At first I was like, oh man, this way that like Keanu Reeves is delivering these lines is a little weird, and also the lines themselves are a little weird. And then as I kind of got more into the game and into the character, I was like, oh no, I think I see what they're going for here. And then by the end of it, I was like totally like into that part of it. But yeah, I would actually say, probably not. Like if more of your issues had been like mechanics based, it is a very fun game to play now. And they did address the cop
shooting's
part.
real good.
Did they put the subways in? Because I remember that was a whole thing.
I believe they did. Yeah,
That they late added that, because that was like, if you go back to that first trailer for Cyberpunk, it is one of the most exciting and cool looking things ever. And I still haven't like scratched that itch that trailer created. And like I don't know that Naughty Dog will necessarily pull it off. I certainly I had my issues with a lot of the narrative of Last of Us 2. Mainly that I didn't believe that Ellie would go on this revenge journey. And I think some of the stuff, especially one of the scenes towards the end, is like, you did this game. You don't need to tell me that I'm a bad guy for doing the thing that you made me do.
Right.
And I really think that was manipulative in a way that didn't work for me. Other parts of that game are amazing. And everything else that they've done, has only been unbelievably mind-blowing. And because Cyberpunk didn't hit, and I didn't play Starfield after Ryan kind of steered me away from it.
You didn't miss anything.
Because of the sameness and the boringness of it. Like I was very excited about the potential of that. So I'm still wanting a futuristic sci-fi game that's really awesome and cool with great storytelling. And that teaser, we aren't going to see this game for a long time.
No,
but
probably not.
I watched it a second time, and I was even more excited the second time.
Yeah, I dig that aesthetic. It's retrofuturism, but it's not the typical retrofuturism. It's interesting to see it being like, oh no, but now like the futurism is like early 90s.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking that, which is funny. Yeah, it's like evolving with us. It's like as we get older, it evolves.
Yeah.
I've been wondering, ever since Stranger Things hit big, I was like, we're going to move into a 90s renaissance at some point. And this CD sees, it's still
People
an 80s
are buying
vibe,
cassette
though.
tapes. Yeah, it's the whole thing. Yeah. The Intergalactic trailer, thinking about it more today, after I watched it, the aesthetic it actually reminds me the most of is Cowboy Bebop a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I got that.
Like one of the most Cowboy Bebop things I've seen in a long time, which I'm very into. Yeah, that's fucking cool.
Because people want that, but what is Mass Effect maybe the closest that's pulled off some kind of future like that? I don't know.
Like Cowboy Bebop, man, it's.
I mean, Mass Effect isn't really like that, but
Mass Effect's almost like too intergalactic. Like there's two. Oh, actually, that's the name. It's too like there's so many like galaxies. There's aliens and all this stuff. Like Cowboy Bebop is like, no, it's just the Milky Way. It's just between these couple planets, but there's people there, and like the ship he's driving is like an old ship, but like you don't know that because that's the whole thing. I don't know. It has a vibe to it, but I haven't seen anything try for that, at least in a long time. And it's cool that they did. Like as soon as they have like the Porsche fucking logo comes up on the back of the ship, I'm like, all right, that's interesting.
Like there's a bunch of products in this game.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
But then when I saw that half of them were Sony products, I was like, all right, well, you're gonna get that. Druckmann, I'm very excited about the possibility that. I think The Last of Us Season 2, the show, is going to be better than The Last of Us Part 2, the game. Right. I doubt that they'll have as much reverence for playing it out exactly the way it was in the game as they did with Season 1. And I'm such a huge fan of Craig Mazin's modern work. Chernobyl's still the best thing I think I've seen in a long time. And The Last of Us is unbelievable. And it seems, I've listened to a lot of interviews, it seems like he and Neil Druckmann have a pretty good collaborative relationship. And I was already getting hopeful about the possibility of Mazin affecting part 3 of The Last of Us, which is what I assumed they were working on because the show was such a hit.
Yeah.
in a positive way, and maybe, you know, he could have some kind of positive effect on Intergalactic. But that's also just like armchair gamer, like, I wonder if these creators I like will do something great.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, there's nothing to say that they're not a 2-game studio now, right? Like that's also a possibility. Like I was really glad to see something new from them because, you know, it was kind of like every generation Naughty Dog got to do a new thing, and that was like their series for the generation. And then Last of Us came, and they're like, no, this is what you do now.
Right.
And also in Uncharted, because like when they released Uncharted 4 and then that kind of spin-off one, I was like, oh no.
Oh yeah, Lost Legacy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're not going to get away from this, are you? Like they're not going to let you. It's a worry that I have for Guerrilla, because as much as I am a huge Horizon fan, but you know, I think the great thing about Horizon was that they were stuck on Killzone for a really long time, and they said, hey, we've got this other thing that we want to do, and they actually got to do it, and lo and behold, it ended up being like a really big hit and a really cool thing. And it's like, yeah, let developers like break out and do other stuff when they have
Well, they're a smart enough studio that they know that they only have 2 IPs going. You know, they know that they need more than that. But I was surprised to hear they mentioned that this is directed by Neil Druckmann, and I would assume that he would be directing Last of Us 3 because that's like his baby. So I would be surprised if he could do both at the same time, but also
I hadn't heard that.
Who knows, you know?
Yeah.
It was, I think after the trailer ended, it came out and Jeff Keighley was like, and Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross are doing the score.
Yeah.
Neil Druckmann is director.
I guess I missed that part. I remember them mentioning about the score.
It's good people for the score.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
For sure.
And it was like, as the trailer was going on, I was like, oh man, I really like this soundtrack.
Yeah.
And then my thing, like, it was funny. I marked the fuck out when Onimusha showed up, and my throat was actually like sore the rest of the night. And I was like, oh no, I've got to do a regular show tomorrow, and then we're doing like a 5-hour like game of the year the day after. I need to be careful. But I never thought that Onimusha was coming back, and I cannot believe it. I was so stoked. I can't wait. Like I told Justin, I was like, I would have expected them to bring Dino Crisis back 1,000 times over before Onimusha ever got another chance.
Yeah.
They did a remaster, an HD remaster of Onimusha 1, and like nobody bought it. And I was like, okay, that's it. That was the last nail in the coffin. They tried. They were like, hey, let's see what interest there is in the series, and there's none. And so we're just never going to do this again. And Capcom is just like, it's. I think someone mentioned it's like a victory lap now. Like they're just like, no, like everything's selling, so like we're just gonna like take another stab at other stuff that didn't sell because maybe it'll sell now.
Yeah. Now's the time for Okami. Why not? Bring it back.
Although they said that it's starting development. Like they're announcing that it's going into development.
Yeah.
Which is always like, you know, that's like a Star Wars project getting announced. Is this thing going to ever see the light of day? It probably will, but like...
It probably will.
It's just...
They seem to have really mastered that RE engine, and they're getting the most that they can out of it. It seems to be really working for them. I really hope that the official title is Okami Sequel, though. They should just keep that. I think that's great.
That'd be good.
I'm trying to think, like, because there was a lot of big stuff. I mean, Onimusha was definitely like the big thing for me.
Who saw Elden Ring coming?
Oh, yeah.
I called it in the first landscape shot. So
he did, yeah. I was there.
Nice.
I don't, but then I guess it's more of like a co-op-y thing, which is kind of weird because, like,
I've heard it's a roguelike.
Oh, really?
Like a co-op roguelike? I don't know. It's a standalone game, which is surprising too.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm less interested the more that I hear about it, but they showed some really cool abilities and like new weapons and stuff like that. So we'll see.
I'm all in on From Software at this point. So I'll play anything that I had such an amazing time with Armored Core 6, and then both Elden Ring and Shadow of the Erd Tree. Ryan and I played Dark Souls on Twitch like 5 years ago. And ever since then, I've been like, these are the only games that really satisfy anymore.
Right. I maintain that they are the only company around who has taken the idea of old, like 8 and 16-bit RPG dungeon design and modernizing it and making it work.
Yeah.
Like, I think that their dungeon design is kind of unparalleled. The way that everything kind of loops back in around itself and has secrets and loot and pitfalls and stuff like that. Like, I think all of that stuff is great, and I wish like other people who make more traditional style RPGs were looking at that. If we take anything from their games, it should be this and not the like grim dark aesthetic and like super punishing difficulty, because like I mean everybody's trying that part of it, which is fine, but like I think that is actually one of the most interesting thing about their game design that I don't think a lot of people really like applaud as loudly as the other stuff.
Some of the catacombs, especially in Shadow of the Erdtree, are so insanely well designed. You find yourself just like staring at it in awe. And there's these awesome moments where it'll loop you back around and you think you've returned to the start, but you're actually like in a slightly different area of the dungeon space, and like it looks exact, but then you actually can go further. You don't realize, and that when you figure that out, you're like, oh my god. There's like spikes dropping down, but if you jump on them, then you can go up, and there's a secret door, and that leads over here, which actually goes back around to that, ghost glovewort that you saw at the beginning that you couldn't get. It's like they're so good at showing you what you so you're like, oh, I know I need to get there, but how the fuck am I going to do that?
Right.
The dungeon where you eventually fight. I'm forgetting his name now. The snake dude, like the guy on the cover.
Placido Sax. No. That's
no. Starts with an M.
Mesmer? No.
Mesmer. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, Mesmer.
That was amazing because like it's kind of like 3 dungeons kind of all together, and I was in there for like a good 4 hours before I got to him, and I was like, oh shit, I wasn't expecting to see you here. I'm not prepared for this.
Yeah.
But that whole endeavor was just like, it just kept going, and like there's a part where you lower the water, and that opens up a whole new area down here, and then you're going up, and because it's very vertical as well, and like that whole thing was like that was by far my favorite part of Shadow of the Erdtree. I thought that was just like an amazing final dungeon for all intents and purposes. That you're not done when you get there, but it feels like a final dungeon. So,
a game that didn't take home any awards, I don't think, but was nominated.
No.
Yeah.
Wasn't that? Yeah. There was also, Julian, the new Yakuza or kind of RGG game.
Yes.
The project that they announced.
Project Century, right? Was that the name?
Project Century, something like that. Yeah.
So I am assuming that it is actually a Like a Dragon game, and they're just not calling it that yet.
It's possible. Yeah, that's probably
what I've been hoping for years as I've gotten into this series is I want to see like some old school Yakuza where it's like you're doing fucking crimes.
Oh, that dude was doing some crimes.
He was doing some crimes.
Yeah.
That was a very gory trailer.
Oh yeah.
Because the funny thing about the Like a Dragon series is that like Kiryu's in the Yakuza for like a minute.
Yeah, I know.
And then the rest of the time you're just dealing with like the drama of your former clan.
That always cracks me up because everybody's, he's a legendary Yakuza. I was like, he was there for like a cup of coffee, it seemed like. It was, at least in the game he is.
Yeah.
And then there was also Virtua Fighter. They're making another one of those. That's cool. I'm into that.
I skimmed through that Virtua Fighter Direct that they had that same day. They didn't have anything to show for Virtua Fighter 6. So most of it was just kind of talking about their commitment to their recommitment to the series, because they had announced a couple weeks ago that they're re-releasing it via 5 on Steam with like full support and stuff. So
yep.
Most of that Direct was talking about that. But cool to see it come back. I don't know if I'll pick it up, but I'm glad that it's still alive. Sometimes you just need proof of life of certain franchises.
Virtua Fighter's been dead forever.
Yeah.
And I did not think that thing was ever coming back. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's nice. And it's not a dead or alive, thank God.
That was definitely the first 3D fighting game I ever played with my brother at an arcade.
Yeah, it was technically the first 3D fighter. So, if you were a certain age,
right.
I remember how blocky their arms were.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Interesting that there wasn't really a Nintendo presence this year. Like there's usually at least someone from Nintendo that at least comes out to like make a presentation, or like an award presentation. Like there wasn't really anything. I mean, they had a couple commercials for Nintendo stuff, but not anybody from the company there or
It's because the Game Awards are now in Nintendo jail, Julian, because nothing got nominated for Game of the Year for them. So they're just, not going to show up.
Yeah.
They're now nobody involved with the Game Awards will get any of their games to play ahead of time to review or anything like that.
Right.
Aren't they kind of like Rockstar, where they just like drop their new, they got the Nintendo Direct, and that's where they put the real stuff.
Yeah, but usually at the Game Awards they at least have somebody come out and do something.
Okay.
And I thought it was very interesting that didn't happen, and I think it really is because they're pretty much radio silent until they finally announce this new thing.
That's what it seems like.
And they
Somebody's
seem like they
going to run
really
out
don't
onto
want
the
to
stage
announce
and be
it.
like, we have this new, you've been asking for it, and we're announcing it here at the Game Awards.
Yeah, I knew that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah,
but.
Exactly. That was like, I guess Jason Schreier had a tweet that he was talking about, like, there's at least 2 announcements in this thing that is just like, nobody's going to believe is real. And so Ryan, who's like the biggest Half-Life fan in the world, managed to convince himself on some level that he was going to get a Half-Life 3 confirmed here.
Yeah.
And it was like partway through the thing, I was like, dude, it's not going to happen. He was like, no, there's still time or whatever. And I was like, imagine how little they need to do this at the Game Awards.
Right.
Like, just think about how much Valve doesn't need to do it at an event because there's eyeballs on that event.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
oh yeah, they announced that. It's huge.
You know what they're going to do is one day, like the Steam homepage is going to say Half-Life 3 available now.
and it's just there. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That'd
be great.
That's the other thing about lead times. Companies are starting to once in a while, like, drop a game soon after they announce it. But
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen with Naughty Dog or Witcher 4.
Oh, no,
No,
absolutely
you
not.
No, CD Projekt Red announces everything way too fucking
that's
soon.
crazy
That's a
stuff.
big problem they have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought because you called it like really early that it was a Witcher thing. And so then my question was, well, is this that remake that they talked about, or is it Witcher 4? And then you were like, no, that's Series Sword. I was like, oh, well,
Yeah.
okay.
They
But
did
I would have
announce
expected that remake.
a while ago that they were going to make a 4th Witcher. It was like after, I don't know,
Yep.
I can't remember when.
I can't remember when either.
They announced it at the same time. They said they're remaking Witcher 1 and they're also working on Witcher 4. And I was like, okay, like I would expect Witcher 1 to like be shown first because
Yeah.
I would imagine that's an easier thing to do.
Probably.
But no, Witcher 4.
I wouldn't doubt if the plan there would be to show that closer to when it's about to come out.
Because there's less like excitement about it.
Yeah.
What's funny is
that's
that could
kind of it.
still come out before Witcher 4.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
then,
that
and then
could-
all of
yeah,
a sudden they'll just be like, "Hey, here's the
And then it's
remake
like,
of one that we've been
and then
working on."
we'll lead up to Witcher 4.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. And that one, I imagine if you were gonna preview that one, you'd probably just redo like the original like Witcher 1 like opening or trailer or whatever with Geralt and all that shit because that like if I remember right, it's pretty okay. I don't remember much of it. But yeah, that would probably be the way to do it. But yeah, no, I it's sad that I could just like I looked at like what like a belt and was like that looks like a Witcher belt right there. It's sad that I can tell those kind of things.
Are you looking forward to the new Liam Hemsworth version of the show?
Oh, you know what? I've not watched the show.
It's better than you'd think. I
Right,
didn't watch
that's what
season
I've heard.
3, but like there were a lot better stuff going on, especially in season 1 than you'd think. But it is
Right.
funny that like Henry Cavill, like they wanted them to go be more genuine to Geralt, and the writers were, I don't know, it
Yeah.
sounded like he had some quotes that came out. It sounded like it wasn't the best time. But it's
Yeah. Yeah,
it
crazy
didn't
that
seem
they're
like it.
replacing him. I wonder how that'll be, you know?
Yeah, it's gonna be. That sounds weird, but good luck.
Yeah.
you know.
That, and I was remarking
Good
about
luck.
that to Justin during the Game Awards is that I hadn't. So I don't have a lot of the streaming services at the moment, and so I haven't been watching like a lot of these shows. But it kind of snuck up on me how many video game related properties are in active development right now for animation or television or like, movies has been a thing for a while, but it seems like really TV right now is like the thing, and they're doing really well, and it's kind of weird.
Well, it was the 1-2 punch of The Last of Us hitting and then Fallout being so much better than anybody could have expected.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know where we're at with this, because like I feel that it got announced twice, but because there is supposed to be a Mass Effect show that Amazon's working on.
Oh, really?
And because Mass Effect is my favorite sci-fi universe, like just straight up. If anything, I think that they've been like oddly restrained on capitalizing on Mass Effect as a franchise. Like if I was EA, I'd be like, no, Mass Effect first person shooter, Mass Effect RTS, just make Mass Effect games. And so I would love a Mass Effect TV series, but as Justin and I have talked about in the past, what I don't want is a televised version of Commander Shepard's story. Like, just do anything else.
Yeah,
but I know
you'll get it and you'll like it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's stuff like, I haven't watched it, but I know that there is a Halo TV show.
Yes.
And it doesn't look good, and I haven't heard that you should check it out.
I haven't heard very good things.
And so I never know, are these things going to be like a real prestige, real attempt at television, or is it just like kind of a tie-in that just isn't very good, or just isn't that important?
Pretty much.
Yeah, because it seems that Yakuza and show ended up being the latter, and I was pretty disappointed about that, because I was like,
curious about that.
Yeah, and I think the big problem is that they decided to like bring the timeline way up instead of just setting it like at the original timeline. So when they flash back to the Yakuza 0 setting, it's set in like the mid 90s now instead of like the early 80s. And from what I understand, that fundamentally changes what was going on in Japan at the time, because the whole point of Yakuza 0 was like, money's flowing everywhere, and it's like everybody is just like big spenders, and that's why the Yakuza can like really capitalize on all this shit. But 15 years later or 10 years later or whatever, it was like a much different story, and that's where this show starts off, and it just kind of misses the point. I don't know, kind of interesting choice.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think, like there was so much stuff, and like I haven't really been able to.
That was the stuff I can.
That was kind of the major
stuff.
stuff. I mean, the pre-show had like a Ninja Gaiden game from the Game Kitchen, the people that make Blasphemous and
The
Last Door. So that looked really cool.
Yep. I will say this, Jeff, when the Intergalactic trailer was, when he was like showing it, he was like, this is what we built the Game Awards so that we could have announcements like this. I was like, oh, this is going to be Half-Life 3.
I know.
Everybody's going to lose their mind.
Actually, as he was leading into that, Ryan and I were just texting each other, wait. Like, just both of us just sending texts that said wait. And then as soon as it started, it was like, that's impossible. It was impossible. It was never going to be that.
Yeah.
Ryan also had the wrong prediction of a Bloodborne 2 or a Bloodborne remaster. Mm-hmm. Those things that like are never going to happen for some reason.
For some reason.
But they keep like jabbing it, right? Astrobot like one of the costumes in there is the Yarnum outfit, right? And then when Sony released their 30th anniversary like trailer recently, it ends on Bloodborne, and it's like, you guys are just like being assholes
because you know that everybody wants it.
Yeah,
it's funny.
From what I understand, Sony owns that IP.
Yes, I believe so. And then like FromSoft, FromSoft worked on it, either that or it's like co-owned somehow.
Maybe
like they
that's
both
the
have
issue.
to like do it.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly how it works. It's really complicated. So they
couldn't just get Bluepoint to do it.
From software games in terms of the licensing. I know that.
Yeah.
Right.
And that Sony is a major factor.
Right.
Interesting.
Pretty much. So yeah, it's like kind of complicated to get. I'm sure a remaster or which of the first one is what a lot of people would like.
Yeah,
just at least
they want to be able to play it in the best form. I mean, they announced a fucking Last of Us 2 remaster for the PC, and I'm like, that game, I replayed it. I played it for the second time like 6 months ago. It's still the best looking game that I've ever played.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it came out in 2020, and Final Fantasy, both of the games that they released in the last couple of years don't look as good as that.
Yeah.
Right.
Not that it should, but because it's going for a different thing,
Right.
But
Yeah.
open world and everything. But just amazing how good that game still looks. And I played the PS4 version of it, It's like...
Yeah.
It's still amazing.
Yeah. But we can get a little bit more juice out of it. Let's the third release of it is going to just really blow your mind.
I guess it's just like when they re-released part 1. It's that you want a new version for the people who are watching the show. So probably season 2 will coincide with that PC release, and season 2 will hopefully, I'm sure they're thinking like, we just want there to be a way that you can pay full price for a latest version.
Absolutely.
When that season airs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's the sad truth of it.
I was gonna say, as like an awards show, it was very interesting because I haven't really watched the Game Awards before, but I do watch the Emmys every year, especially, and also the Oscars. And I am kind of a sucker for when somebody poured their life and selves into a work of art, and then they're honored by it, and then they're all flustered when they're in this moment of genuine. And I think that stuff is wonderful. And but it was this funny thing of like, I kept texting Ryan throughout it all these jokes about like, imagine if the Oscars were doing X, Y, or Z thing that the Game Awards was doing, and how like, it's imagine if somebody came in and was like, here's a QR code you could scan for $20 off of the latest movies that we're also showing. And then I was like, after I would say something like that, we would both pause and be like,
That'd be
would that be really bad? Would that be bad?
Yeah, right.
Would that actually? And then it was like, imagine if like what they were, you basically like ran down the list of like, best actor, this person, best supporting actor, this person, like, because he slammed through some of those categories.
Oh God, yeah.
And they just stop and go, and you stop and go like, but here's a trailer for the next Marvel movie. And then I paused again and I was like, what? More people would watch it, and the reason I'm watching this is because of the trailers. I'm not watching this to see. I'm not watching this to see who won best indie game. Like, I'm watching this because this is going to be filled with trailers about games that are coming up, and it was like maybe they should take a page out of this book. But it was also just like, yeah, I was like, I haven't seen an award being given out in like 20 minutes. It's just been trailers, and then he stands up there and just lists them off, and nobody comes up for him. I was like, wow, what a weird show.
It was actually better this year than most years.
I remember last year it got a lot of flack.
Yes.
For, like playing people off early.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Having too much Kojima.
I mean, I can never have enough Kojima. So that, if anything, there was not enough Kojima this year. But I do wish that I think this is a really good step, and I hope that like, and from what I can tell online, like people seemed like actually really like pleased with this one.
Yeah.
Well, it had a lot of announcements people want.
But I also saw a lot of people kind of echoing my sentiment, which was like, hey, like, the better tone of it was better, right? Like they actually addressed like the issues that the industry is having right now. I thought that the award for that achievement award for that YouTuber who's been helping displaced game designers like find jobs was like amazing. Like I actually got choked up at that part. I thought Sven from Larian, like his speech like right before Game of the Year was incredible.
That dude went in on fucking AAA games. He was in on them.
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
And so hopefully like they see that and they're like, okay, no, we can because I think you can have both. I think that you can make it a more legitimate appreciation of the people who make the actual video games, right? Like ostensibly that's what the awards part of it is supposed to be. Right. But it doesn't really do a lot of service to them when you're just like listing off the awards and they don't actually get to say their thanks or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's more emotional to me, is like seeing those people actually, being shocked that they won kind of thing. And the awkwardness of translation is very enjoyable to me. What I don't love, and that it is awards show banter by presenters, which is an art
yeah.
that is extremely difficult to pull off in a good way.
Yeah.
And even, at the Oscars or the Emmys, it's rare in any one show that you get like more than 2 good awards banters. And the ones here were not good.
Nope.
I did like Laura Bailey with the dude from Breaking Bad. I thought that part was actually pretty good.
That was
okay.
better out of them, but still felt like, because didn't they have a teleprompter snafu in that one, or maybe that was a different?
No, that was the different one. There was two girls. I don't know who they were. I'll be honest.
I think they both played Dean in Last of Us 2.
That could be it.
Was one the voice actor and one was
the show
live action? Okay,
got it.
I didn't catch that.
That was the one that had the teleprompter issue, and they like basically called it out.
Yeah, they did. That's what you gotta do that.
Yeah, you kind of do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that stuff is tough to get right. A lot of the time, I sit there and die inside.
It's just such a difficult task that is made even more complicated. My sister-in-law actually writes for a lot of awards shows. Like, has written for MTV Music Awards and writes most recently the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And the number of barriers to getting anything good to the screen is unimaginable, because
I believe it.
The first line of defense is the awards presenter. Like, let's say it's an actor, their publicist doesn't want them to look weird. And doing comedy is usually risky. So these people basically nix any idea that would be good and want it to be like, oh, we love that idea, but what if we took out, and then they will describe the joke part of the joke.
Yeah.
And be like, well, then it would be good, right? And so just like getting anything past that first line of defense. And often, with comedians, like, if you get to them directly, they'll be like, I would love to do that bit. But like their publicist doesn't want them to.
I bet the talent actually doesn't even see that version of it, right?
Exactly.
No,
so
it's
a legitimately and then it's stuff like, we need at least 10 Pepsi integrations per hour. Kind of thing, and it just becomes, you try to write banter about that's like making jokes about, if you're at the MTV Movie Awards, you might make a joke about Kanye. You might not anymore. But a few years ago, you might be like, be as crazy as that. But then it's like 10 people telling you not to make that joke.
Right.
And then there's the actual fact of like the person not coming to rehearsal. And then, snafus in the moment, and the show is changing while it's being made live, and personalities upon personalities are involved. And
it sounds like a lot.
And then to actually it's to actually stand up there and do the bit. It's just bad news all around.
Yeah. I think that's why like the good ones tend to stand out so well, right?
Yeah.
Like there's certain people who are just like kind of like effortless or appear effortless at it, and it's just like, oh, you just seem like so like this is kind of like your entire like wheelhouse, and you're just like at home right now.
When you see Tina Fey or Amy Poehler or like those people are so good at doing this kind of thing anyway. They have such an improv background, and they know how to be funny and how to they're not like more worried about their appearance than they are about being funny. They're more worried about being funny. And most people at an awards show are worried about not being laughed at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to be the butt of the joke. I get that. Yeah, for sure.
I think that's why I'm always impressed. Well, it's not that I'm impressed. I think it's why I always expect a good performance of that nature if like a pro wrestler like is doing something, because so much of their day-to-day job is very much like improv with like physicality to it. And so when they're like, hey, can you go up there and like vamp for like 5 minutes? Like yeah, sure. Like that's literally just us. I'm just going to cut
they do that every night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a guy like John Cena is just so unbelievably funny and commits to the bit. I feel like I saw a clip of him coming out, and he was like literally naked, but had something like in front of his junk that he was holding, and he
at
managed
the
to
Oscars
just
this year.
he managed to pull that off because of his. I think Channing Tatum has the same kind of thing of just like there are certain actors out there who commit to the bit, and that gets you all the way there for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the way there for the most part.
All the way there for the most part.
That's what you did. That's the title of the show right there.
I was just going to say, I was like, that sounds like a podcast title to me.
Well, speaking of committing to the bit, Jeff, I know you're a fan of space. I know that you're a big aficionado of space.
Love space.
I'm very excited to have you on the show because we've got like a spaceship like backstage. What? Yeah. Do you want to come with us to space?
Can I get in it?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. It's probably safe.
Yeah.
That's good enough
safe.
for me.
Yeah.
That's good enough for you. If that's good enough for you.
Will it get us all the way there mostly?
All the way there mostly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. It probably will.
Well, yeah. Show me.
Awesome.
All right. Well, let's get in here and hit some buttons here, and then I'll just press this button here, and then we'll be on our way, I think.
There we go.
Wow. We're really doing it.
Yeah. I know it's been a dream of yours
intense.
for a long time.
Ever since I saw Space Camp as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa!
Yeah. You know, now that we're in space, Space Camp. What the fuck is that shit? They showed all that stuff. I never got to go. No, I'm kind of upset now. I haven't thought about that, and so you mentioned it just now, and now I don't know what to do with my life. I feel like I missed out.
I was lucky enough to go. I was
were you?
unbelievably lucky, and did go to Space Camp. We didn't go to space like in the movie though.
Whoa, okay.
You know that didn't happen.
Yeah.
The accidental launch of the kids.
Now you're here. So,
right.
But now, yeah, I've been waiting for this since then, and
I was going to say
was
he's
disappointed,
uniquely
and now
prepared.
Yeah.
He's uniquely prepared for this. He went to space camp to
USB
learn how
cord
to be in
is floating
space.
upward.
Yeah.
Right.
And again, like don't eat anything right now. Like you don't want anything clogging the instruments. It's a whole deal.
I brought a bag of crackers.
No, don't,
Okay,
please.
okay.
We had a problem before.
I don't know. Brahmo comes in here and does mushrooms sometimes, but you know what are you gonna do?
But he's not in space when he does it, so that's fine.
He goes to space.
He might be
In
in
his
space
mind.
when he
Okay,
goes
well,
to space.
I can't say anything. It's your spaceship, Justin.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, what am I gonna do? Tell him no?
I mean, you can try, but I know it's difficult.
I'm not gonna do it.
The nice thing about being out in space is no one can hear us. Like we can just like kind of
No one can hear us scream.
No one can hear us scream.
Yeah.
No one this is all. It's kind of like the cone of silence. We can just gotta get things out here.
You can talk about anything.
You can talk about anything here. So one night, it was actually I think 2 episodes ago, because we we tend to record pretty long, and so I usually don't eat dinner before we do the show, and I'm starving afterwards. And so one of my little treats is I'll usually like drive to Jack in the Box or something, like somewhere that's open 24 hours, right, for like a really late dinner. And I think it was actually Thanksgiving week.
Okay.
So like it's like 12:30 in the morning, and I'm leaving, and there's somebody, and I'm relatively new to suburban living. I bought a house 3 years ago, and I'm not adjusting well to neighborhood suburban life. But there was just a dude with like an older looking dude with like, I guess, I don't know, his grandkids or something in the front yard, and they had like a campfire built. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that you can't just make like an actual fucking fire on your front yard at 12:30 in the morning. And I was kind of just like staring at this dude, but he was staring at me like, what the fuck are you doing driving at 12:30 in the morning? And I'm like, wait, why are you looking at me like I'm the one who's doing something weird right now? And then like the whole way to Jack in the Box, and it's like a good like 25-minute drive, I'm like, am I the weird one? That whole exchange, I was like, am I the asshole? Like, what's going on here? That's weird, right? Am I like, that's not normal. We're not. This
well,
isn't.
You live in Texas, Julian,
but not East Texas. This is like Central Texas.
Well, listen, it's still Texas. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
I can't believe you're driving 25 minutes for a Jack in the Box.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Texas. Yeah.
That's a real distance for a real... Well, sometimes you need the box.
Sometimes you need the box. It's also one of the only things that's open.
Yeah. There you
At
go.
that time.
Yeah.
In Ohio, we don't even have those, so yeah.
What's
Yeah.
your
I'd
order
have to drive.
at the Jack in the Box?
Yeah.
Ultimate cheeseburger.
Yeah, that's really fucking good.
Yeah.
That's their best burger. The sourdough jack's also really good.
Sourdough Jack is excellent. For a limited time, they had the Ice Cube Munchie Meal box, and they brought back the chicken tater melt, which is like, if you want to do some long-term damage to your body,
Oh,
you
I
get
do.
the chicken tater melt. But it's not on the regular menu anymore. And so like when it was back for that limited time, I think I had like 4 of them.
Okay, I gotta try that if I ever see it. But their tacos are great, and their egg roll is great.
The egg
The egg roll
I'm a big
is
fan of the egg
like
roll.
what I want out of an egg roll, and it's at fucking Jack in the Box.
Yes.
Their jalapeno
and the
poppers
sweet
are
and
good.
sour sauce they give you with it is like
It's
just the
good.
perfect touch.
It's what you
Yeah.
want, but it's the right kind of duck sauce or whatever.
I like how, as an outsider to Jack in the Box, as somebody who has pretty much lived on this side of the world my entire life and never had it, it just sounds like you guys are making shit up to me.
That's what I
does.
love about the
Yeah.
Jack in the Box.
It's kinda
Jack-
great,
So
yeah.
the Jack in the Box menu and the Carl's Jr. menu are like in competition for coming up with the menus that people outside of America will make fun of us. Like they'll come up with like dumb shit. They're like, "Oh, this is what Americans eat," and Jack in the Box is like,
Right.
"Bet we'll just make that."
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and cleans up with the late night menu.
Yes.
And they're right. Yeah, they're right to do so.
No, that's like I think like I didn't really get Jack in the Box until I heard my friend Spencer. He was a guest on the Doughboys podcast a long time ago to talk about Jack in the Box, and he was like, "Jack in the Box is for when you want tacos and an egg roll and a cheeseburger all at once at night. Like it's not for if you just want, you know, like, and also their chicken dishes suck, but like that's a whole other issue." I think it's way better than Carl's Jr.
And you also want a Coke that is like bigger than like it has any right to be. Like
Yeah.
you need that 44 ounces of sugar water directed to your veins.
Jack in the Box has way better shakes than you would ever expect, and their Oreo shake is like just unbelievable. It's the best
Yeah.
in fast food.
I like an Oreo shake.
And you can usually order one like because the machine is actually almost always working. It's not the McDonald's situation.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, here the McDonald's shake machine works.
I'm glad we're
Most
having
of the
this
time.
discussion in space because nobody can hear this.
Yes,
And
no,
nobody
it's
should
really
hear
nice.
this Jack in the Box discussion.
You can
Absolutely.
You can just let your shame out. It's nice.
Yeah,
And-
yeah,
yeah.
It is nice. It is nice. I guess the only thing I have to add is Julian texted me the other day about a name for a thing, and I've been feeling bad for weeks because I forgot to mention this. And I feel like I got misunderstood that I didn't want to do the thing, but I do want to do the thing. Julian.
Okay.
Okay.
So I have thought that we should set a goal for that because I want that to be a thing for a certain Patreon threshold, simply because
Yeah, right.
it's definitely
Yes.
going to be a lot more editing work because I know me and what I'm going to do with that thing.
But now here's the thing, and now I've thought about it for a couple weeks, and now I think I like the name,
Oh, okay.
and I'll tell you why later. But I think it's good.
Okay. All right. Because I was racking my brain. I was like, okay, well, because you were like, I'm not gonna lie, I don't like that. And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So the thing with Justin, Jeff, is that like he's like the most laid back like co-host you can imagine. And so I'll be like, hey, what if we did this thing? And he's like, yeah, sure, man, that's fine. And so like the rare times when he's like, no, I don't like that, I'm like, oh fuck, okay. Well,
voiced
I
an
didn't have a
opinion.
backup.
Yeah. And then I started thinking about, and now I started thinking about, I was like, no, but what if that was the bit? What if that was the bit?
Yeah.
That I don't like it.
We should always be asking ourselves that.
What if that was that? I ask myself that at least once a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
No, I kind it's grown on me now.
All right. We're not married to it because we're not even.
We're not married to
but
it.
I'll keep that in mind. I'll keep it in the
Keep it
brain
in mind.
box. Okay.
It's a good thing to talk about these things in space.
It is, yeah. Jeff, did you want to unburden yourself of anything?
I had a lot of Taco Bell last night, and it was really good.
I did
That
too.
is good.
Yeah. I got Taco Bell after
That
the
is
Game
good.
Awards. They brought back the apple empanada. Like
I just had I got one of those. It was really
Those
delicious.
are good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good.
Can I ask a Taco Bell question? Because it's been a little bit since I've had it. Because I can't get DoorDash to send it to me where I live because I live in a shit fucking town. We have a Taco Bell. It just doesn't participate in that whole system for some reason. Is the Cantina chicken any good?
Yes.
Is that a thing I should look into? Okay.
Specifically the soft taco and the crispy taco, I really love. The soft taco has like fresh cabbage in it and is like really good. And then the crispy taco is like has cheese on the outside and it's like grilled in some way, and so it's kind of like
the part
messy
of it
to
I'm
eat.
not a fan of.
But it's very tasty.
Okay. It looked good and it sounded good.
I liked the quesadilla, the Cantina chicken quesadilla, but it was like a little too ranchy for me. Like I think there's some kind of ranch flavors going on in there, but people love ranch.
I know, and I don't know why.
It's the one condiment. You can put it on anything.
People love it. I'm more of a blue cheese guy, but
Yeah, I in my household, ranch is very popular. And so I was like, okay, I'm an adult now. Let me put some ranch on something. Let's give this an
like
honest
a
to
real
God
adult,
shot.
we should
Like a
drown
real
this
adult.
in ranch.
No, I didn't drown it. I started out small, and I was like, all right, let's try this. Everybody's eating this thing with ranch. I'm gonna try it too. And I tried it. I was like, this is just like mayonnaise with extra steps, and I don't really get it. Not a fan of ranch. Don't really understand the hype. It was kind of bland. Maybe I got some bad ranch. I don't know.
It's like universally beloved in my experience, and I'm like, it's fine.
I know. It's fine. It was fine. It wasn't like I was like spitting it out or anything. I was like, yeah, this is okay.
I've definitely
see the
run
hype,
into
though.
people who have very strong anti-ranch opinions.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I used to like do this like regular thing with a friend of mine where we would get like buffalo wings at a place like regularly, and then he started making his own at home, and then he started making his own ranch. So it's just kind of a thing for us. So it's
Well, if you're having a good time, who am I to judge?
Yeah.
Oh, while we're in the zone of silence, the cone of silence.
Yeah.
I listened to the FF7 Rebirth episode you guys did recently, which was great.
Yeah.
And
the episode where we had a 30% drop off of listeners after like the week after that one.
Really? That's funny. I liked it.
Oh, thank you.
Well, because I was going to say, like, because you mentioned that you were finding our playthrough of it was a little bit too effusive with the love.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that. That was definitely the case through the majority of playing that game. We were just, like, so enamored with everything. It was kind of like...
Oh, I get it. Yeah.
But it was kind of in the context of us really, really having such a bad time with FF16.
Sure.
It was it had so much love for Final Fantasy and so much delight in it that I was like, this is paced like a fucked up thing. But,
Yeah.
and I have a lot of negative things to say about it now that I'm done. Like, there's certain, especially the ending, especially a couple of parts here or there. But overall, it was delivering on so many things I wanted, and especially after really being bummed by the FF16 experience. But I was thinking that it was even like the way that FF16 soured us made us over the playthrough like not want it to redeem itself. Like it was like whenever something new would come up, we were like not willing to give it the space that maybe this one will be good. And so as soon as they start talking, we're like, fucking, why are they doing this? And like we were really, it was like too much.
Yeah.
But that also is like there's other parts where like we were depressed as people that, at that point when we were playing that, and then that game is so depressing and we were just like mad at it.
It is depressing. Yeah.
And
Yeah, because there was definitely parts where you would kind of go off on something. I was like, you literally just talked over the thing that you're complaining about. Like,
and I knew we were doing it, but we just still couldn't really like help it. I don't know.
Yeah,
it was
I get
really.
It happens.
And then as we're playing Rebirth, and it's like such a different experience, and it like kept making me mad at 16, and I was like, that's not fair. But in the, like, after experiencing no side quests and no
meaningful
mini
side quests.
games, and just a disdain for Final Fantasy, as I think you've pointed out before. It just doesn't. It wants to like be like, but Final Fantasy kind of stupid, right? And like,
Yeah.
you know, and also I think that what it promised in the first 2 hours, it doesn't deliver on in the rest of it, in terms of it being like a serious Game of Thrones thing. Like, come on,
Right.
Like they say the word fuck, but
the
it's
opening of that game is
shallow.
amazing, and then it kind of just drops off a little bit of a cliff slowly.
And they have 3 excellent villains that they squander in place of just this unknowable god creature thing. And
it's just, I think that, like, even if you can, as many Final Fantasy fans do, find a way to make that story interesting for you, it doesn't do most of those things, and you have to do all the work to make it that way. And so I think, you know, but you were talking about the play in FF7 Rebirth with the VR headset, and it was really enjoying going back into that memory when I was listening to your episode, because I think that might be the hardest that I've laughed at a Final Fantasy anything maybe ever. Like, I think that, like, when he pulled the VR headset off at the end and he was still in the audience, I was like, this is literally the most confusing thing that's ever happened. This makes so little sense that I can't help but love it. Like, I was like, they found a way to make Final Fantasy VII completely incomprehensible in terms of, like, what are you talking about? What just happened?
Yeah,
what did other people
thing,
experience? It was genuinely the biggest, like, single laugh that I've had.
Yeah. And I've thought about it a lot since we did that episode, mainly because I do think that it actively, like, turned off a lot of people from this show. And I was like, man, was I too harsh? But I keep going back to the thought that if this was not named Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and it was Final Fantasy 16 or Final Fantasy 17 even, I would have been over the fucking moon for it.
Yeah.
But I think it is that they're trying to do this weird, like, well, we want to retell the story, but not really. And it's like, well, pick a lane, guys. Like, you know.
There was a lot of times where you were describing stuff, and I was just dying inside.
That was my
as you
favorite part
described
of
it.
that whole conversation.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
Well, it's like,
I believe it.
yeah, it's just, they nailed something in the first one. And when you're remaking it, the real reason to remake it is to bring that story to a wider, larger, newer audience. And to be like, to have the attitude of, like, everybody knows this thing that we did, so we gotta, like, subvert it and make it complicated for people, because they all know. It's like, no, if you just do it, we will all cry again, and we'll all be talking. Like, it's just like, it's like you can. I was really thinking in the lead up to it that they were going to make us think that anything could happen, and then do the thing that they did in the first place, because it's like, that's the meaningful.
Yeah, you there's a lot of people who have said for years, like, oh, but what if this happened instead? And it's like, but the whole rest of the game hinges on that moment, so you can't.
I'm not, like, a terribly spiritual person in real life, and sometimes, you know, surrounding death, somebody will say something to me that I find very unhelpful or useless, and it will be like, oh, like, at my dad's funeral at the thing, like, the power went out at one point in the temple, and there were people afterwards telling me, like, it was him, and I was like, get the fuck out of here. Like, I don't need, it's like, and so maybe I'm uniquely averse to the idea of, like, the person lives on in another world or whatever, but I'm like, the thing that sucks about death is that you have to live with the reality of it. And, you know, it's nice to think about all those things, and that's a way that we process this serious thing, but to kind of undercut it, you know, whatever. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree.
It's like when they were just remaking the game and teasing out every moment to make it like bigger and better, and they were using ideas like, oh man, if you could get frogged, I bet a bunch of kids would be doing it for fun, and maybe they would have a stupid little game that they play as frogs.
That was neat. Yes.
That's the stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you've thought so much about this world that you actually have this idea. And then there was like, you've thought so much about this world that you have this idea?
Yeah, there's a lot of that, yeah.
So,
yeah.
very good stuff, but yeah, not perfect.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am looking. You have not yet aired like the finale for that, right? On the Patreon.
No, I think that's coming up in the next few weeks. Maybe a month and a half.
I'm waiting for that. I gotta see the ending through y'all's eyes.
Well, let me tell you about a bad thing that happened.
Oh no.
So, the day that the finale releases, you're actually going to get 2 episodes. One is the playthrough of the finale, which had the video corrupt.
Oh no.
And is just the audio. And then you get a second episode that will be us replaying the finale with the video.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
we had a classic, you can't believe it happened on this one, no cat situation of the video corrupted on the finale. You'll hear in the recording me discover that and be extremely upset about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And us being like, I don't know what the fuck we're gonna do, but you'll know what we're gonna do because you'll have another episode the same day available. That's our second playthrough of it.
Even if I didn't see that second episode, as I was listening to that, I would know what you were going to do because I know what you're going to do from previous experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just when a tech snafu like that happens, it's just like, why? Because it didn't corrupt on like 10 episodes that we were doing the battle simulator. Like,
right. The
just
filler
stuff
is...
that just does, and then the finale.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So,
No, the moment when you think that you've lost like all of the footage in Final Fantasy VI is like still one of my favorite episodes. Like I feel so bad for you, but then you in the future where you're like, oh yeah, because I'm so upset that we missed all those jokes. Like, oh, they were so great.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
Yeah.
my dog is requesting her dinner.
Oh, then we need to get back. We need to get
back to Earth so that I can.
Yeah, we got to do it. All right, let's go.
It's amazing how she was able to contact us all the way up there, but
She's a smart dog.
yeah.
I have a telepathic connection with her.
Yeah.
I'd buy it.
I wasn't gonna say it, but since she was brought up, like she came up on camera briefly, and I was like, it's Haley from the show.
Haley, come here. Come over here, real quick. Come here.
The destroyer of runs, the resetter of games.
This is her.
Oh, there she
I've got
is,
her right here. This is Haley on mic.
Yeah,
Good old Haley.
Such a good
Destroyer
Moogle.
of games. A great Moogle.
Yes.
She was very,
man.
very good Moogle.
Yes.
Let me pause to go feed her and go to the bathroom.
Oh, yeah, you're good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Stage Select is made possible through the support and funding of viewers like you. Here are our wonderful patrons.
Actually, Justin, I think that is a great time for us to thank some patrons.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot we do that on this show.
Yeah, we only do it every week,
Fantastic.
but and it's only the 39th episode. But
No, I know, but I forget every time. It's always a surprise. That's my charm. That's what I do here.
yes, we appreciate all of our lovely patrons. But every week we like to thank the executive producer tier. And this week we have AddieXD,
We have Big Baker.
Who I didn't know streams, Justin. She should.
Yeah, they do.
You should have told me that, Big Baker. So go on Twitch and follow big__Baker, and tell her that the State Select sent you.
I know. I need to follow them too, and I keep forgetting to do it.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm bad at like watching stuff on Twitch. Anyway.
Yeah. We have Bookie.
We have Casey Curran.
We have David Portnoff.
We have Dennis Robertson.
We have Eric Peacock.
We have Xrian.
We have Game Johnson.
We have Matt Jorgensen.
We have Philip P.K. Becker.
We have Raymond Crum.
We have Stephen Lobo.
And we have Xavier Krager.
Yes. Thank you, as always, to our lovely patrons. Hope you guys enjoy the video version of the Game Awards. I wasn't expecting to put that up, but I was like, fuck it. We'll just do that. Also, I'm having issues as we're recording this. I couldn't actually download the audio or the video from the Game Awards stream, so I couldn't put that with our local audio to make like a nice clean version of it.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just going to put. I'm going to convert our video into audio for Patreon, and then release just our plain local recordings in the free feed.
That's probably the way to go.
Yeah. And then quick other announcements that I meant to mention earlier. Daft Man, who is a longtime listener and follower of us, way back to the Nerds Without Pants days, he just dropped into Discord to let us know that like he made the soundtrack for a couple games, one of which just got announced. He never mentioned that to us before.
No, I didn't know he did music. That's awesome.
Like, let us know and we'll shout you out. But go to Steam and check out the game Pirate Code. He did the soundtrack for that, and then they just announced Pirate Code 2, and he's also doing the soundtrack for that.
Nice.
And then also, I'll have a link in the show notes, but Mike Fallick just released his new project, which is this like kind of comedy audio drama about the guys who kind of cordon off crime scenes. Justin and I actually have a small bit in that, and now getting to hear like what that was actually for was very interesting, because Mike had us. He just gave us like a framework and said, "This is what it is," and then I just want you to ask questions, and that's all the coaching we had. And now that I understand like how it fits in, it was actually pretty fun. So
that's good.
Yeah. So that'll be in the show notes.
I'm glad it worked out, because I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah, no, and it's very clear that we don't know what we're doing in the thing, but that's kind of the bit. So
I think that's I figured that out eventually. Yeah, it was kind of the bit.
Did I hear a name Mike Fallick?
Yes,
you did.
Is that like a pseudonym or?
No. Falleck.
That's his name.
Yeah,
just because it sounds like a joke adjacent to Mike Hawk, Or
right. No.
I get it.
Yeah. No, Mike is a long time podcasting friend of ours that
awesome.
He's like a writer, comedian, filmmaker, animator. He just released a video game for Troma called Troma Presents Poultrygeist. Like he's just kind of like, one of those like
cool
capital A artists that just does a bunch of different shit, and he's a very cool guy, and he's been a friend of ours for many years now.
I like when he comes on, because I usually end up yelling at him.
Yes, it's the only time that Justin Ham ever actually raises his voice.
Somehow Mike can bring it out in me. I don't know what it is about him.
Yeah,
I love him to death, but God, he always gets me on something. I'm always like, what do you? No.
Yeah.
Okay, but I love Mike. Anyway,
so I don't actually have a lot this week. I started the Indiana Jones and the Great Circle for Xbox.
Yeah.
And fucking A.
Yeah.
That game really has the potential to fuck up my top 10 list, right at the buzzer, because it is excellent.
It looks so good. I can't wait for it to come to PlayStation, because, man, it looks really good.
Yeah.
I have to say, first off, I am not an Indiana Jones fan. I didn't even watch Raiders of the Lost Ark until I was 31. So I don't have any nostalgia for Indiana Jones. It's not really one of my big childhood franchises or anything like that. I do think that it was a weird choice to have the tutorial level be literally the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark, shot for shot. because as good as the game looks, if you want to like put a big like spotlight on the uncanny valleyness of your graphics, the best way to do that is to do a shot for shot recreation of an iconic like movie opening.
Yeah.
But having said that, it controls really well. It looks incredible. You know, the soundtrack obviously is excellent. It's also not what I was expecting whatsoever. I guess what I was expecting was Wolfenstein, but less action, right?
Yeah.
What I was not expecting was a really robust stealth action game that has like one foot in the Dishonored and like Deus Ex camp and another foot in the Hitman camp.
Yeah. The disguises portion of the program really threw me for a loop when that came up.
Yeah.
I thought that was neat.
Yeah, so like really early on, like you're running around the Vatican, and your priest friend is like, "Hey, you can't just run around in your civvies. Like, wear this priest outfit." And you put it on, and yeah, like it gives you access to certain areas of the area that you wouldn't have before. But you can also get back into Indy's clothes if you want to. I don't know what benefit that would give you at this point in the game.
That sounds great. And my understanding is that the people who made this game are the people who made the recent Wolfenstein games.
Yes.
And I loved those. Not
Me too.
The blood.
The
the
Not the one
co-op
with the daughter.
one
was really bad. Like
Yeah.
there was
Yeah.
the old blood was not bad. Like a couple of the other DLC things were not bad, but the mainline games were amazing, and we didn't get the end of that trilogy. I hope we someday do.
Me too.
Because we didn't get to see Mecha Hitler. But knowing the way that they do things, some of my favorite missions in that were when you put on a SS uniform and you're infiltrating in this kind of first person, but like very, like the environments are really detailed. It's like the non-shooting stuff, and I really love that. And if you could get some Resident Evil 7 and 8 style puzzles in there, you know, it's a funny thing to me to even think about how exciting this game actually is to me, because when they made the Uncharted movie, it was like, well, what? You know, we already have Indiana Jones. Like, why would we care about seeing Nathan Drake in a movie? And then with this, it's like, why make an Indiana Jones game? We already have Uncharted.
Right.
Yeah.
And this does seem different enough, you know, from that, because it's
Right.
first person but the idea that it's more like the Wolfenstein game, and I realized, you know, both games you're fighting Nazis.
Yeah.
So
Very true.
they just like, you know, maybe this is a reskin of what was supposed to be Wolfenstein 3.
Could be.
I don't think so, because
I
it
doubt it.
feels fundamentally different, and in a way that it's really refreshing. And there's NPCs that you're talking to. You're actually getting quests from people, and there's an inventory, and there's this whole like upgrade mechanic where you get like adventure points for all of the different like side activities you do. So like if you have a camera, and if you take pictures of like certain scenery bits, or like there's cats all around town, if you take pictures of the cats, you get extra points. And then that feeds into the upgrade mechanic where you find books, and they're all like era appropriate, like they look like books that were published in the 30s. And, you know, it's like, okay, this one will make me a better brawler, and this one makes me tougher and stuff like that. And so that's how you upgrade Indy. And there's also like there's an element of like VR presence where you really feel like you are Indiana Jones in a way that like a lot of first person games don't achieve. I was loving every minute of it. And then I reached a game breaking bug about 3 hours in where my inventory broke.
My God.
Like I'm supposed to like take a picture for the next like story part, but I can't use my camera. And then I was like kind of walking around, and I got the prompt to use my whip to like climb up, and I hit the whip button, and nothing happened. And I looked it up, and apparently it just happens sometimes, and it's like baked into the save. So like you can't just like restart the game and have it fix. So
That's
now
why
I'm just
you
waiting
never
for
play
a
a
patch.
1.0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there no manual saving in that game? Is it all auto?
Basically what happens is once it does it, it's part of the thing. So there is a manual save system, but like
Well, I was
There's
wondering
only
if
one
you could
save
roll
slot.
back to like, yeah, I was wondering if you could roll back like a save or two and start from there maybe, and it would.
It's just that it saves so often that it's like who knows like when it happened, like, you know, autosave wise. I guess I should look into that. I might be able to find, but there's also no telling like when it'll happen again, right? Because it seems like just like it just randomly happened. So I think my best bet right now is to just wait for them to address that with a patch.
Yeah.
So it's on cooldown right now. As I continue to play Marvel Rivals, I bought the Battle Pass.
Of course you did. You were always going to.
No, I was like, I'm not a multiplayer guy.
No, you're gonna do it.
I kind of wanted to see like what that part of the game is like.
Mm-hmm. Sure, you did.
And it's interesting because like, well, I think if I was playing the game more, like I would actually be rolling through the Battle Pass pretty quickly. But I'm really sporadically playing it. But also the nice thing about the battle passes in Rivals is that like they don't expire, so you're kind of just always working towards it. And then I guess as new ones come out, you can decide which one you want to be applying points to or whatever. So you know, that's fine. I noticed in our Discord that a lot of the listeners, like during the Game Awards, all jumped on Rivals at the same time. So
nice.
I think like everybody was so shocked that I got into it. They're like, well, I mean, got to try it now because, like, if Julian likes it, then there's something here because, you know, Julian doesn't like these types of games.
That's true.
But so, and then I've been playing something else, but I'm actually saving that as a bombshell nomination for tomorrow on our Game Awards. So,
oh boy,
yeah. So I'll save that for then. So listeners won't know what that is until next month.
Great.
But that's it for me.
All right. Well, I only did a couple things too. I played Fields of Mystria on stream. That was okay. It's fine.
It sure did look like Stardew Valley.
It's a Stardew Valley. That's pretty much it. Yeah. Which I guess it has been angrily pointed out to me on YouTube that is also a Harvest Moon. So, you know, whatever.
Well, I mean, Stardew Valley was a Harvest Moon. Like,
yes, I know. That's what I mean. So, I think the title of it on YouTube was it's a little too much Stardew or whatever. I can't remember what it was. I was like, and then I read it. I was like, oh yeah, I guess I could see how you could read the title and be upset at me about that. I get it.
I mean, I think it's a little too agricultural farming.
I mean, yeah, you know, it's a little farm simulator. 20.
That's what it's more like.
Yeah,
real farming.
Yeah. Fields of Mystria is like it's a Stardew, Harvest Moon, whatever you want to have there, but it's got like the kind of a Sailor Moon art aesthetic for like the characters and stuff. I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. I'll try it out and see what's different about it. And I think the problem in the time that I had with it was that it doesn't really show you how it's different from anything else. It's kind of just like Stardew is a game that I enjoyed more than I thought I would. And as I was playing this, I was like, okay, but what's different about this one other than the art? And it kind of was like, yeah, not really anything. And I was like, okay. And then I had to boot up on that very stream Stardew to see if I was remembering incorrectly. Because I was like, I remember just being like off to the races with that thing, like very fast. And I was right. I was like, yeah, I have like all this. I have enough money to get this thing started. I'm cleaning all this stuff. I'm getting all these materials. I'm off to the races. I'm hooked.
This one's a little grindier. Like
it's a little too slow to start, I think. And I think if they would show, and it's still in early access, so you know all that could improve. I think if they could show what makes their game different from all that stuff a little bit quicker than what they do. Or just, you know, give you a little bit better of a start, maybe, then I could maybe get into it. But as it is right now, I kind of found it hard to get into. But then that's Fields of Mystria, pretty much. The other game that I played, which is I will talk about, I won't surprise everyone with bombshell announcements, Julian. Whatever the bullshit is you're doing.
You gotta have some mystery, Justin. That's
no, you don't.
That's stagecraft.
Sure, whatever you want to call it. I played a game called Closer the Distance, which was nominated in the Games for Change thing in the Game Awards, and that's kind of how I found out about it, because I never heard of it before. It is now in my top 10. It is a very good video game. It is the concept of it It's kind of Spiritfarer, but The Sims.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Julian, you might have a bit of a rough time with it. It is essentially the premise of the story is there's a small town and a girl dies in an accident. And basically you play as the girl and her ghost or whatever, and everybody in the town is dealing with the death of this girl who is kind of like
Oh, wow.
a very big fixture of the town. And the first character you play as is her sister, and it goes from there. And basically the Sims portion is everybody kind of has their own needs because they're everybody grieves differently, and it's real good. It's not a perfect game by any stretch. I think the problems of it as a big Sims player, I would like a queue of actions, because sometimes characters start doing stuff on their own and I'm like, where is he walking? Where is he going? No, don't do that.
How dare you assert free will over yourself?
Well, yeah, I like that aspect, but at the same time, I just want to know where they're going so I can be like, oh, no, don't do that right now. Or if that's important to you, then do it. That's fine. But I would like to know.
Right.
The other thing, and I think there's a lot of gripes that I had as I was going through. And by the end, I was like, oh, that's kind of the point, isn't it? Where certain needs were really tough to keep full. And as I was at first, I was like, oh man, this is really frustrating because I have to get this thing done to make this. One of the early things is you have to make a statue you make a wood carved statue for the girl's grave, right? And you're trying to get it done. You're playing as the girl's boyfriend who's trying to get this done, and he can't do it. He just at certain points he just starts going, yeah, I just can't right now. Mm-hmm. And you have to go and fill this need, and then it takes forever to do that and now I'm like, by the end, at first I was like, God, that's really frustrating. If they would have just given me a little bit more time, I was like, no, but that's real, and that's kind of the point, right? It was. By the end of that game, I was like, oh man, that was really something.
I have not looked at the bag that the vet gave me with Caprica's ashes in it since I picked it up, because I have not been able to. I took it, they called me to pick it up, and I picked it up and I put it in my bedroom, and it's there, and I just can't touch it right now. Yeah. It's very interesting in that everybody, is dealing with the situation in their own way. The girl's sister deals with it just in routine and solitude. Those are her two needs. So she likes to sew by herself, and that's how she deals with things. But also, she has the ghost of her sister trying to push her to help everybody else out, which is stressing her out. It's interesting. Are characters aware of the ghost?
Only certain ones. It's kind of hard to explain. Only certain ones. That's where the Sims aspect comes in, is they're aware of them. It's almost like they're guiding them kind of in a way.
Okay. This actually, I want to check this out.
You should.
Yeah.
It's very good. The only other thing, the game was made in Germany, so I'm coining a phrase here of Eurojank English every now and then.
Sure.
You're gonna get that here and there, where it's just people don't talk that way. That's not what they say. But it was written by Germans, and I think there is a German voiced version of the game from what I've seen in the credits anyway. So it kind of explained a lot. There are certain voice acting performances that I was like, there's one character that you play as that I was like, ooh, I feel like you should have got just about anybody else for that. They do not work out very well, but they're trying their best. But ultimately, very good game. Cool. Definitely worth a look.
Yeah, I looked it up while you were talking. I really like the look of it. It's got a nice style to it.
It's got a really nice style to it.
Yeah.
It's kind of minimalist in its own way, but it really works. It's like I said, not a perfect video game, but by the end, it hit me pretty harder than I thought it would. I'll be honest with you, as somebody who's had some deaths in the family this year. Mm-hmm. It was something. So yeah, Closer to Distance. Check that one out if you are into that kind of thing. And other than that, I guess I played through the entire Hitman trilogy. That was fun, but I won't really talk about that. It was good. Hitman's a good video game.
It's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
I will say,
Pretty
so last night, we were like, it was after the Game Awards. We were kind of looking at like the sales on Steam that, from the Game Awards that were announced. And I was like, ooh, like, I will say that one thing that happened, I forgot to mention, is I got a Steam Deck. And so now I'm like kind of looking at like stuff to play on that and whatnot. And I was like, oh, like hit, the World of Assassination for like $2.99. And you were like, no, go look.
No.
And I'm really glad that you were there with me because I almost fucked myself because they're very deceptive on how they're packaging that game.
It's kind of shitty how they do that, where it's like, oh yeah, because that's the front page thing. That's like as you're scrolling through deals or whatever, it's like, oh yeah, Hitman $3, and you're like, oh shit, okay, yeah, let's do that. And then you get in there and you start actually looking and reading and then there's other versions of the game. It's like, well, those ones are pretty expensive. Like, what's in those that's any different from the $3? And then you start looking, it's like, oh, it's almost like a free to play thing. It's just Hitman 1 if you get the $3 version in that, but the other games are like money. Which
it was fine when they were labeled as Hitman 1, 2, and 3, but when they turned it into World of Assassination, it was supposed to, that encompasses everything, and so that's what you think that you're supposed to be getting. But they still sell it kind of piecemeal because there's different editions of it. So I was really glad that you were there to like coach me through that. I was like, oh, okay, never mind. Like for all three of them, it's still a little higher than I'm willing to plunk down right now. So I can, because I already own it on PlayStation, so I don't. It would have just been a double.
There's no real reason.
Thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't play those in depth, but I do have a really great memory of like a couple of days of some friends over here, and we played like one of the recent trilogy, and it was just we were laughing our asses off at the goofiness. You throw a can of beans at somebody, turn around, slip through a door, like just the slapstick of it all was really really dialed in a way that I was like, that's exactly where this franchise should be.
Even like his line delivery when he says stuff to people is so over the top and corny sometimes that it's perfect. It just works somehow, and it's great.
Some of the stuff I've seen about the new Indiana Jones game is that it has some touches of that goofiness of like you can put on other outfits, and then I guess like Indy's ability to punch is a little superhuman as the game goes on. And
like you would kind of like the movies, right? Like, you go back and watch like an old Indiana Jones movie or like an old like Sean Connery James Bond movie where it's just like it's one punch. He just needs one good haymaker and like they're down for the count.
But yeah, it's almost got that like Hitman-esque, like you can just pound on people and then drag them to a stall and then put on their clothes and stuff.
Yeah, it's really great about like you can break stealth and get spotted, but then just like murk that dude fast enough to where like nobody else gets alerted to it, and then just like hide him.
Is what's so exciting.
Yes. Yeah. I can't wait to play more. I hope that they get that patch pretty soon. I could start it over, but I'm just afraid that like that thing will just randomly happen again. So it's like I get it. It's because I can't see what I actually did to trigger it, and from what I could tell, like there's no real rhyme or reason to how it happens. So I'm kind of hesitant to jump back in.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, gentlemen, kind of getting to the end, but before we do, it's time for Big Dumb Quiz. Hello, I'm your host, Spence Sterling. And tonight, we have two contestants. First, Jeff, a drone crash test pilot from Accident, Maryland. And Justin, a teacup poodle fashion designer from Chunky, Missouri.
That's not at all what I do, but okay.
Jeff, first question is for you. What is the name of the first Russian cosmonaut to make it to space?
His name was Yuri Gagarin.
Judges? That's correct.
Why do you need to go to the judges for that? Are they the only person that has the answer? Why don't you have the answer written down, Spence?
Justin.
He needs help.
Your question.
Yeah.
Justin, what are you looking forward to the most for the break of the State Select?
Okay. I'm gonna.
Don't fuck this
I'm
one up,
actually-
Justin. Answer the question.
I'm gonna randomly watch some anime that I haven't watched because I keep ordering it and I should watch it.
Judges. I'm sorry, that's incorrect.
See, I
Once
can't,
again,
I can't win.
Justin just
It's
fucks
an,
up.
It's an opinion question.
Fuck
How
you,
can
it's
I,
Big Dumb
like,
Quiz.
You blew
I've
it.
been
Sure,
Spence
fine.
Sterling. Good
I blow
night.
it all. I blow it all the time. It's terrible. It's terrible.
Well-
Why do we hire him? Why is he here?
Look, Justin, I don't know what to tell you. He's really popular.
No,
People really
it's
love
bullshit.
Big Dumb Quiz.
Do they?
They do.
Well, they're wrong. They're wrong to like it.
Okay, well, you get in the Discord and you tell them that because they
I
want
you know,
Big
I
Dumb
don't-
Quiz merch, and I'm not even lying.
wow.
Yeah, so
That says
I don't
a
know.
lot about
I don't know what to tell
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let them experience it from my eyes, all right, and then we'll see.
I think that's why they like it so much, is they experience it from your eyes.
I don't like it. I don't like this.
Well, Jeff, what are your plans going into next year?
Well, we are going to do season 8 of the show. We're going
Oh,
to get
yeah.
going on that probably in the early part of the year. You know, we don't have a specific date set, but we're going to kind of feel it out. Probably no later than February to play it. And then it'll be probably, I don't know. It usually takes us 6 months before we can start releasing episodes.
Right.
So at some point, you know, middle of next year, you know, I can't commit to any of this. Don't hold.
Oh,
hands,
no.
but,
Yeah, of course not.
No, don't worry about that.
That's definitely in the cards, and just trying to remember. You know, I think there will be a television industry, and I would still love to be a part of it. So I
wish
am
you
going
luck,
to
man.
still
Yeah.
make another effort at that before I give up and go back to school. I don't know. Go get a day job that can sustain me. I don't know. It's going to be a weird year. I really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I feel for you, man. Like,
I'm at a crossroads of sorts. You know, it's like complicated.
I hear you.
it's something, yeah, because you know, like when we kind of talked about it briefly, like off mic, and I had written into the show about it, but like it is like a super amazing achievement that you guys were able to sell a show, and like
thank you.
To me, like I think like you keep going because I think that proves that you've got it. Right.
Yeah, we wrapped ourselves up a little bit in the idea that was like the right next thing for us to do, and that like that's what needs to happen. And then it didn't happen, and that's okay. But picking up those pieces of and moving on and trying again, it's hard to let go of that project.
Yeah,
I get it.
and I still prefer y'all's version of Bill and Ted 3. I liked Bill and Ted 3, but I like the no cat pitch a little bit better. I gotta say,
I appreciate that. I think so too. I think it would have been a better 3, but they did a pretty good job.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I wish you all the best. As far as like, you know, because every season kind of has its own like meta bit to it. Do you kind of go into the season kind of knowing what you want to do, or does that kind of evolve like as the recording is happening?
You mean like the Dan Carlin piece and the Orson Welles kind of thing? Well, that is usually being brainstormed throughout the whole rewatching of the season process before we produce the first episode. And with the Dan Carlin thing, it felt like we went through such a war, and he covers war, that would be like a really fruitful thing to do long term over the season. And that like I was especially excited to get to the Emerald Weapon episodes to write what would he say about that.
Yeah.
And when we were doing the video version, we had the idea of like maybe, you know, because we do like this idea of like I've referred to it as like a spiritual overseer of the season that kind of like pulls out certain themes and through lines. And the idea of like, what if Orson Welles was watching this, and what would he have to say? And I think like I think we did a good job with that, but I think getting a little bit meta about it, that like I could have gotten more into the voice of Orson Welles and written a little bit more complicatedly. And we had some complicated ideas, some of which made it into the final version of the show, but some of which didn't, involving him turning out to be an AI creation by our future selves so that they could get quotes for a DVD box set for the season, for the 50th anniversary of the DVD box set. And that, like, we actually even started the process of making our own. We were going to do like one DVD box set of season 7 because we thought it would be so, it's like that thing that would take too much effort, but in a stupid way.
Yeah.
And that kind of is like, we've lost steam on doing that. And part of that was like, it didn't really make it into the show. There was like a whole other alternate ending to the final episode with the Orson thing. But so I think that like, I feel like we could have done a better job of what that was meant to do, but I still am proud of a lot of that Orson work.
I wanted more Orson. It was a good impersonation, and it was like good writing. I know one of our regular listeners, he also like he'll DM me about shows that, because we watch a lot of, or listen to a lot of the same shows, and he was like, "Oh man, like Orson hadn't shown up in so long, I had forgotten how much I missed him." And I was like, "Yeah, I know, like this shit's great." But also,
well, I'm glad to hear that.
It's always great when the future yous show up. So I'm always for more.
That was the
Ryan
thing. It's like we try to use them sparingly. They came in organically in season 2, and then it felt like a very fun thing to bring them back for season 5. The way that we did.
Right.
And then this felt like, just like, I was starting to think about, like, it's like future. I wanted to get into the show that future me is doing this DVD box set to prove to himself that the video version was worth all the extra effort. And it's not, but like that, that kind of a thing was in the air.
Yeah.
Right.
I was a little surprised because I kind of expected with Final Fantasy IX, because it is such a like kind of love letter to all the games that had come before. I kind of almost like thought you guys were going to like kind of bring back like a lot of the like bits and characters from previous seasons, just because like it would really fit in with that.
That would have been fun to do.
But that has me wondering, obviously 3 is going to be, it's going to be you guys doing voices again, because obviously like there's no voice acting. But what are you guys going to do like once you get to like 10? Because like now it's going to be the era of voice acting.
Well, for one, we need to make sure that we're not talking over the dialogue when it's happening. That's number one. But with 10, it's like there are dialogue scenes, but there's a lot that is not voiced, like a huge amount of it that's not voiced. And I assume that we'll do like a bad impression of the voice acting.
That sounds great.
We'll see if something, it may be that when Sid talks, we got to do the Paul McCartney voice. But
oh yes, yeah.
That we'll just have to take it as it comes. Luckily, 10 and 12, they do have a lot of voice stuff, but there's also a lot of stuff to read out. Hopefully we just won't. If we step on it, we'll come in and voice over and we'll say, here's what they said.
There you go. Yeah.
There you go.
Nice.
That's the way we could always save ourselves in the future, by just deleting everything and being like, so what happened was.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what continues. Like, as I've told you before, Jeff, like it is 100% my favorite show.
Very kind of you. Thank you so much. You've supported it a lot, and I appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
Very
and
true.
Like I tell people, it's like every time that I get through a run, like I just re-download season 1, episode 1, and I start it again, and I'm just right back in. Like the cold open of that first episode is like such a great tone piece for the entire series. It just brings me so much joy. So thank you for keeping up with it. And
I'm very proud of it. So thank you for saying so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of the only podcasts that I ugly laugh at. And that says a lot.
Yeah.
That's great.
But I think that's probably about it. I don't know that I have
That
anything
seems
else.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time. I know, it was kind of a last minute ask, but then also, you know, like we had to do some rejiggering, and then, you know, Ryan had a thing come up. So I'm glad you were still able to show up.
He sends his apologies, and will definitely come on in the future.
Yeah, would love to have you
you're
guys
always
again.
welcome.
Yeah, I'd love to do this like at least once a year.
Yeah.
I consider you guys like in our little like independent podcasting group. Like, you know, there's a handful of us that are just like fiercely independent and just like doing it our way and kind of doing it just for the love of podcasting, really. And like, I really deeply respect you guys for keeping up with it.
Thanks so much. Your show is great, and I love how it's developing. And
thank you.
I hope that the 30% drop off on that episode come back, because I thought it was great.
Yes. Hopefully some No Cat listeners came on for this one and then decide to check out the rest of it, because that would make me very happy. But yeah, I think that's a show, Justin.
That seems like a show to me. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and start getting out of here. You can find us online. Jeff, where can people find you these days?
At No Cat Podcast. I'm the one generally on those accounts. Ryan's kind of separate on his own accounts online and stuff. I've made the jump over to Blue Sky. I've finally abandoned Twitter for the most part. It's still there, but
yep.
That was later than I wanted it to be. I was wanting to make that jump much sooner. But that was the other thing, is like, just I've been spending a little while cleaning up the No Cat socials and the YouTube, so it's more comprehensible and stuff like that. So follow us on Blue Sky and go to our YouTube. I gotta do that.
Awesome.
And
yeah, me too.
You know, no one can know about this in your podcast player.
Yes, look for it everywhere. And like, if you haven't already, like, I don't know how many times I have to tell you people.
Yeah, I feel like you gotta be tired of hearing Julian to tell you about this.
It's really fucking good, guys. I don't know what to tell you. Justin, how about you?
You can find me on twitch.tv/TyroneSwift, YouTube at Tyrone Swift TV, and Blue Sky Tyrone Swift. It's just that. Just look for that, and you'll probably find me, my dumb ass.
Yes.
Doing maybe nothing. Who knows?
Yeah.
Can never know.
You can still follow me on Twitter at Julian_Titus and the show at Stage Select Pod. But honestly, I'm doing far less on there. It's really more of just kind of keeping that from other people sniping it at this point.
Yeah, I keep mine abroad because sometimes they tweet out what new anime figures are coming out. And I'm like, well, I got to see them.
There you go. At this point, like I said, that's really where I get all of the HoloLive stuff. And that's about all I'm getting there. So the best place to interact with me these days is on Blue Sky, just Julian Titus. I'm on there. And I'm doing all show-related stuff through that as well. I'm not going to bother doing another separate thing because I just can't. It's too much.
I don't blame you.
But
hopefully we're all stepping back from social media right now.
Yeah,
I'm not on there very often, so yeah.
I have to say, like, the Blue Sky vibes last night and today, as far because I'm mainly I'm pretty much only following like people that are in the gaming space. Really positive vibes to the Game Awards overall.
It's better. It's definitely better.
It is nice.
It's very not nice, but like, you know, it's still, it's not like Twitter in its heyday was not a shit show. In addition to being kind of wonderful.
Yeah,
right.
I agree. You can definitely send your comments, questions, concerns at the usual spots, but our season finale is actually going to be next week, so we are getting to the end of it for our break and everything. So better to hold on to them for now and then send them when we're back. Thanks as always to the wonderful Megan McDuffie for our theme song and interstitial tracks. Thanks to friend of the show, John Gholson, for being our announcer and providing us with our artwork. But that's going to do it for this edition of the Stage Select. I've been Julian Titus. He's been Justin Ham. Very special thanks to Jeff Eckman. We've been the Stage Select. Signing off.
The Stage Select is copyrighted and owned by Space Monkey Mafia Productions, specializing in independent podcasting. Please consider sharing the show with your friends and support us by joining our Patreon or donating to our coffee. Thank you, and good night.